American Dream, you've been putting in work, right? I've been seeing you. You've been putting in work. Your line of questioning and reasoning is definitely needed in this current conversation, right? Your proposal to look at Black through the lens that you look at it as not lumping all people together and things like that. In this conversation right here on Kemet, I think that you're questioning and your antagonism to the point is definitely needed in this conversation. You be bringing some shit out, right? Your conversation is definitely working right now, and I see you.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty. I recognize it. I recognize passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just a man with the scepter and demand, with the lecture and the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work, working with the man? Don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I see it. I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world, I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally, we pop dumb things till we stop the impurity. We pop them just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men went out fishing. I'll tell you why they rocked the boat, cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? The Jews crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix, some and some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too. I can feel you. I feel it. I can see it. I recognize now. It's your royalty. I see it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty.
You know that stereotypical Black American from the South? Like, this is why they say, that's why Northern Blacks say Southern Blacks are kind of backwards, because they don't realize they're free. Like, you know what I mean? Even the celebration of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is about Black people realizing they were free late in the game. Like, people had to go in and be like, no, y'all ain't slaves no more. You're free now. And that's still going on today. These people still think they are slaves, or that slavery just ended yesterday. And why are you still referring to yourself? Like, everything about you is slavery related. You have a slave's mentality. You think you're still a slave. And that is sad.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go.
But if America is built on white supremacy, how did the slaves build America from the ground up? And not just from the ground up, they laid the foundation. Listen, it says they laid the foundation for the nation's economic, political, and cultural development. That cannot be the role of slaves in a white supremacist society. Remember, you're the ones that say this society is white supremacist. So if it's a white supremacist society, how did the slaves build it from the ground up?
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
America is is built on white supremacy when it's convenient for y'all to get reparations. And America is built on Majora when it's convenient for y'all to get credit for building America. Like, y'all do whatever y'all can to take, y'all either want credit or reparations. If you can't get credit for building, you either want credit for building the greatest country in the world, or you want reparations from the greatest country in the world. But the people that built it can't be asking for reparations. That's ridiculous.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
This spirit of Majora has shaped every aspect of American society. Every aspect of American society, from infrastructure and agriculture to music, art, and political activism. Y'all want to take credit for everything. And y'all are the same ones that say America is built on white supremacy. Like, where is the white supremacy in all of this? How are y'all responsible for every aspect of American society, for shaping every aspect of a white supremacist society? How are y'all responsible for shaping a white supremacist society?
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
Again, this is foundational to the South and to the South's vision of America. That's why the 1526, 1619, all of those things happened in the South. All these slaves were going to the South. Most slaves ended up in the South. That's why FBA people will tell you they come from the South. FBA's lineage goes back to the South, the slave states, and trying to build slavery. But you didn't build America. You were building the Confederacy. That's what FBA built. You're foundational to the, you should call yourself FBC, Foundational Black Confederates. Because that's what you're foundational to, the Confederacy. That's what slavery was building. Slavery was building the Confederacy, not the United States of America.
And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
The reason that Black people were united and considered themselves Black people and Africans is because we knew we were split up and everybody was all over the place. So we called each other's brothers and sisters because we knew we could be brothers and sisters. Again, it's more likely your brothers and sisters are in the Caribbean or in South America than that your brothers and sisters are here.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
So no more will we have the Marcus Garvey types, the Starkly Carmichael types, the Barack Obama types, the Kamala Harris types speaking for us. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who's going to speak for y'all now. Lord Jamar? The Flat Earth guy? Lord Jamar is now your spokesperson. Tariq Nasheed is now your spokesperson. The pimp, Tariq the pimp, is now your spokesperson. You don't want a Caribbean, you want a pimp.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
They're against immigration. So this again shows how un-American FBA are. Because the foundation of America is immigration. Immigrants are foundational to America, not FBA. Immigrants are. The idea of immigrations comes, that's why the Statue of Liberty says, send me your tired and poor. Like, America asks for immigrants to come here. That's what America asks the world to do, and they don't even want the best of them. He says, send me your tired and your poor and the ones that are huddled in masses. Those are the ones to send. You know what I'm saying? That's the Statue of Liberty. America invites immigrants here. FBA rejects immigrants. FBA is an un-American group.
And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
For people that talk about white privilege, FBA has such a black privilege stance. Like, they swear like these are like a black supremacist, black nationalist group. At best, they are black supremacists. FBA is a black supremacist organization.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
I'm noticing that everything about FBA is centered around slavery. The holiday is centered around slavery, is about slavery. Their flag, the components of their flag is about slavery. The idea that they're foundational is because of slavery. Everything about them is about slavery. Like, FBA have a slave mentality. Being an FBA is like being someone with a slave mentality. It's as if you think slavery just ended 2 days ago.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
This is why I appreciate American Dream. This is why I like the content, because he's not afraid to actually say what he's.
Get the fuck out of here.
I want you to listen very, very carefully.
Tell the youth them for be strong. You can't tell the youth them for preach wrongs. While you try it on these lands, just remember every man is equal. Yeah. Each one teach one, and a father God, him a the only done. So make we ease and reason, smoke trees, span the ends, all the deep meds. Take a look at life, and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's the government now have no heart, them no care about poor people.
I want you to listen very, very carefully.
Tell the youth them for be strong. You can't tell the youth them for preach wrongs. While you try it on these lands, just remember every man is equal. Yeah. Each one teach one, and a father God, him a the only done. So make we ease and reason, smoke trees, span the ends, all the deep meds. Take a look at life, and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's the government now have no heart, them no care about poor people. Yeah, bigger heads no love people again. Them most than little of them. You see friends now reason again. Vex through whistle a blame. More time it hurt me to see how the face deal with the eagle of them. Regular me see it happen. Regular me see it happen. Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's a government no have no heart, them no care about poor people. Social commentary. Drop the one, your principle, you don't know. The global will come and do it. Some people life every day, it's stress. The high price from JPS, that topic is currently. Jah alone, him a go help you. We need food and we no healthy. We are feel the pain, beg you protect we. In a life we have no envy. Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go. It's a government no have no heart, them no care about poor people.
It's likely that FBA people have blood relatives with Caribbean people. It's more likely that you have blood relatives that are Caribbeans or in South America than in America. Your blood lineage is more likely to be in the Caribbean or in South America than it is in America, because slaves were broken up. That was a part of the policy of dealing with slaves. You break up families, you break them up and send them off to different places. So what is this lineage you're talking about? This is a fake lineage. Everything about FBA right now is fake.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
I'm convinced that this is all a part of the fifth element of hip hop and their original man, the black man is God. This is all a part of that mentality. Thinking that FBA is foundational to America is the same as the Hotep talk. Foundational black Americans are just Hotep Americans. Hotep people claim they created Egypt, and FBA claim they created America, but they're both mistaken. But it's that original man, we created civilization, gods and earths of the universe, cream of the planet Earth, blah, blah, blah. It's all of that mentality that's spewing out of FBA.
And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
So, where we thought it was just an issue of, these tethers, they're just coming here and taking the benefits of the stuff we've worked for. Like, I thought that was the argument against immigrants. The main concern here is that immigrants are working for white supremacists. They're working alongside white supremacists to undermine FBA. Right? That's really what they're saying, and that's why this is such like a needed conversation to be had. Because this is how far we've come. We've gone from being allies to being enemies, like sworn enemies.
And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
Everybody was slaves, man. Everybody was a slave. African Americans, the slavery experience of the African American is no more unique or atrocious or devastating or hard to deal with than any other people's slavery. It just is not. I don't think so at all. I think Caribbean slavery was more harsh. I think Caribbean slavery was way more harsh than American slavery. What people in the Caribbean had to endure simply because there were so many more of them. I believe since there were so many more of them, they were just a lot more harsh towards them. And so the slave experience of the Caribbean in the Caribbean is more harsh than in America, in my estimation.
And I just so it go.
And this is what this is about. You don't want Caribbean people to get reparations from the American government. I agree with you. I don't want Caribbean blacks to get reparations from the American government. That's crazy. I also don't want American blacks to get reparations from the American government. That's also crazy.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go.
And it's the craziest thing. Y'all are a black supremacist group that has a slave mentality. How y'all think y'all are superior, but you have a slave mentality? You just think you got out of slavery yesterday. You're freedmen. You want reparations, but you're superior. How are you superior? You want reparations for what happened to you? Man.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go.
It's possible that the standard of living of slaves in America was higher than the standard of living of the average European in any of the European countries at that time, or not the average European, or a poor European. The standard of living of slaves may have been higher than the standard of living of poor Europeans, many Europeans during that time. So I'm just questioning whether or not I would say American slavery is the greatest atrocity of all time.
And I just so it go.
This nation started to be built after slavery was abolished and after the Civil War. That's when this country was built, and that has nothing to do with slavery. Slavery was what was building the Confederacy. Foundational Black Americans are foundational to the Confederacy. They're foundational to the vision of America that was built around slavery. And that's the Confederacy. That's the America that lost the war. That's what America defeated. FBA is foundational to what America fought against. Slavery is not foundational to America. Freedom is foundational to America. What's foundational to America is what America fought for in the Civil War, not slavery.
And I just so it go.
Only 3% of the slaves brought into the transatlantic slave trade were brought to America. Only 3% of them. Most of them went to the Caribbean and and South America. And y'all want us to believe that what happened to that 3% in America was worse than what happened to the majority of them elsewhere. I don't buy it.
Take a look at life and don't close your eyes. Sometimes things happen and it's no surprise. And I just so it go.
American dream, you've been putting in work, right? I've been seeing you. You've been putting in work. Your line of questioning and reasoning is definitely needed in this current conversation, right? Your proposal to look at Black through the lens that you look at it as not lumping all people together and things like that. In this conversation right here on Kemet, I think that you're questioning and your antagonism to the point is definitely needed in this conversation. You be bringing some shit out, right? Your conversation is definitely working right now, and I see you.
I'm challenging this idea that it was on the backs of FBA that Caribbean and African immigrants got to come here, and that we are just kind of leeching off of FBA's accomplishments here and then undermining them. So I'm absolutely going to challenge that. And the reason I'm challenging it is because, I feel that they're not taking into consideration what FBA has gotten off of the backs of Caribbean and African immigrants, or Caribbean and African people in general. We owes to the Caribbean and to Africa.
Foundational Black Americans believe they are foundational in that they alone built America with their invaluable and indispensable slave labor. If it is in fact true that a slave population can alone build a nation, then it is also true that FBA did not build America. They built the Confederacy. FBA is foundational to the America that lost the Civil War, because slavery was the foundation of the economics and social structure of the South, or the Confederate States. FBA is not foundational to the America that won the Civil War, because freedom is the foundation of the economics and social structure of the North, or the United States. Foundational Black Americans did not build America. Foundational Black Americans built the Confederacy. I think that slavery was the mainstay of the economy of the South. That's why the South was fighting to keep slavery in place. But slavery was not the mainstay of the economy of the North, or at least the vision of the North for what America is was not built around slavery at all. They had to end slavery in order to really make America, to bring about the vision of what America is. So again, I think slavery is foundational to the South or to the Confederacy, not to America.
And I just, so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
The other empires you mentioned, the Homie, for example, the Homie had slavery from the beginning of their civilization to the end of it. The same can be said about Rome. Rome, there was slavery from the beginning of Rome till the end of Rome. Egypt, from the beginning to the end. Most of these empires that you spoke about that are built on slavery had slavery from the beginning of their civilization till the very end of it. America stopped slavery at the beginning of America.
And I just, so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
The reason I'm telling you that America is not built on slavery is because America ended slavery very shortly after America started. The first state that ended slavery in America, let me just say this, the first state that ended slavery in America ended slavery in 1707, which was 1 year after we gained independence. So America started, and then the next state was like the year after that. So America started freeing their slaves right after independence. Those northern states. It's the southern states that took until 1865, and we had to fight them to end it. But the northern ones were gradually ending it right after independence. So America is not built on slavery.
And I just, so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
It's arguable that America started really after the Civil War. And the Civil War was fought to end slavery. After the slaves were freed and most of them moved up north to work in those factories and industries. I think industry is really where America built its wealth, and Americans built their wealth off of their innovation. Slavery ended very soon after America got its independence. And I think that the South, if anything, it was the South and those southern states that built their wealth off of slavery. and not America or the side that won the Civil War.
And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it go.
Jamaicans are to Pan-Africanism what Jamaicans are to hip hop. You know, if you were to talk about pioneers in Pan-Africanism, you'd be mentioning a bunch of Jamaicans and Caribbean people. You know, they are the pioneers of Pan-Africanism. And the same is true for hip hop. There are Jamaicans and Caribbean people are the pioneers of hip hop in the same sense. So Jamaicans are to Pan-Africanism what Jamaicans are to hip hop.
And I just so it go, so it go, so it go, so it.
Hey, peace. What's happening, everyone? Welcome. Bona David.
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royal to these eyes, royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty, now I recognize it. Royalty, I recognize passion. Never just a man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just a man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the grand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work working with the man? Don't kiss the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest of prizes, no sins. Recognize the kings, overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. I can see you. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I can see you. I see it. I can love again. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty. Recognize royalty.
Hey, peace. So today I want to get into a little bit of FBA history. I'm actually, I'm going to look at the website for FBA, the Foundational Black Americans website. It's the official FBA.com. And I just wanted to read a little bit about them, get to know them a little more, and just try and understand their background and their philosophy and stuff like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about, just read a little bit about FBA history. All right. It says foundational Black Americans are the proud descendants of the Black men and women who endured and survived one of the greatest atrocities in human history, American slavery. And right off the bat, I'm wondering, is American slavery worse than any other type of slavery that existed? Was the slavery that was experienced in America worse than the slavery in the Caribbean or the slavery in Africa or in South America, in Brazil, Argentina, Italy, Spain, was American slavery worse than any other slavery? My hunch says no. My hunch really says no, it was not. I think, personally, I think there are some European countries that are today openly racist. When you go to football matches, you'll hear them at football matches just doing racist chants openly, and I think in America, we would be shocked if that happened at a basketball or a football game where there would just be racist chants like that. So I think racism is more real in those European countries and in certain South American countries as well. It's just way more prevalent, I believe, today. And, and for that reason, I can imagine that slavery in those countries was a lot less tolerable. Like it was just a lot more vicious. But I'm just taking a guess, and I will confidently say I don't think American slavery was worse than in those other countries. I just don't necessarily think that that's true. I think I would even go as far as to say that it's possible that the standard of living of slaves in America was higher than the standard of living of the average European in any of the European countries at that time, or not the average European or a poor European. The standard of living of slaves may have been higher than the standard of living of poor Europeans, many Europeans during that time. So I'm just questioning whether or not I would say American slavery is the greatest atrocity of all time. I'm just going to start off by disagreeing with that claim. But let's continue. It says, these resilient ancestors built the United States from the ground up, laying the foundation for the nation's economic, political, and cultural development. From the ground up. Like, how do we take that grand leap to say that slaves built America from the ground up? That's an overstatement, to say the very least. It's ridiculous to think that. It's utterly ridiculous to think that. And these are the same people, again, these are the same people that believe in white supremacy and that America is built on white supremacy. But if America is built on white supremacy, how did the slaves build America from the ground up? And not just from the ground up, they laid the foundation. Listen, it says they laid the foundation for the nation's economic, political, and cultural development. That's doing a lot. You're doing a whole lot. Like, that is ridiculous. For you to think that is the role that FBA have played in America is just ridiculous. That cannot be the role of slaves in a white supremacist society. Remember, you're the ones that say this society is white supremacist. So if it's a white supremacist society, how did the slaves build it from the ground up? You're being silly. You're being silly and ridiculous. However, the rich history of FBA did not begin in 1916 with the arrival of enslaved Black people in Virginia. It began nearly a century earlier. So they seem to be distancing themselves from the 1619 project, but, still kind of trying to pit the birth of America to slavery somehow. It says in 1526, Spanish colonizer Lucas Vasquez de Ayllón brought the first documented enslaved Black people to the shores of what is now the South Carolina and Georgia coastline. Shortly after their arrival, these enslaved Black people courageously revolted against their captors, leading to the collapse of the Spanish settlement. The surviving Spaniards retreated to the Caribbean, leaving behind the liberated Black people. These freed Black people integrated with local Native American societies, marking a pivotal and often overlooked chapter in the lineage and cultural evolution of foundational Black Americans. Right, so I think there is a misconception that foundational Black Americans are doing the ABO talk. They're not doing the ABO routine. They're not saying they're indigenous to America. They're not saying that at all. They're actually saying they came here through slavery, but they're just saying they have their slavery starts in the 16th century in 1526. So it's definitely not the ABO routine. They're still brought here as slaves. But you know, this 1526 is news to me. I thought the furthest back they said the furthest back was 1619. So I do want to take a little look at this 1526 event that they're talking about. So let's just take a look at that real quick. All right, so let's see what ChatGPT says about the 1526 event. It says Lucas Vasquez de Leon, a Spanish explorer, is believed to have brought enslaved Africans to the Americas during his 1526 expedition to establish a settlement in what is now the southeastern United States. He founded San Miguel de Gualdape, considered the first European settlement in what would later become the continental United States, near present-day Georgia or South Carolina. The expedition included Spanish settlers, enslaved Africans, and indigenous peoples. When the settlement faced harsh conditions and disease, it failed within a few months, and many of the enslaved Africans escaped into the surrounding wilderness, where they may have joined local indigenous tribes. This event marks one of the earliest instances of enslaved Africans being brought to North America. So, first thing first is that what Tariq said was that after their arrival, the enslaved Black people revolted, that there was a revolt leading to the collapse of the Spanish settlement. And the Spaniards that survived the revolt left for the Caribbean. But that's not what ChatGPT says. ChatGPT says that the settlement faced harsh conditions and disease, and that's what made it fail. So ChatGPT said nothing about a revolt. So, you know, and as far as I'm concerned, this is unverified about a revolt. And other sources that I've looked at have also said it's because of disease and stuff like that, why that settlement failed and that the slaves escaped. But no mention of a revolt. So I don't know if Tariq Nasheed is stretching the truth a little bit to make FBA seem like, you know what I mean, they come from a revolutionary background where but I don't know. I think that's unconfirmed at this point. But he says about it, I asked how many slaves were brought to North America. So there were, it says, this group was part of a larger contingent of about 600 people. So there were only about 600 people that came. And these were Spanish settlers, indigenous people, and enslaved Africans. And I don't know how many of those enslaved Africans were, how many of those 600 were slaves. All 600, I think. I would guess that more than half of them were not slaves. But during the transatlantic slave trade, approximately 12.5 million enslaved Africans were taken across the Atlantic. right? And of these, only about 388,000 were brought directly to North America. So for the transatlantic slave trade, there were close to 400,000 Africans brought to North America. And in the 1526, there was, I would say, maybe 100. So, you know, it is way more likely that the FBA today, it's way more likely that you are a descendant of the slaves that came during the transatlantic trade than with the 1526, people that came in. It's just not likely. You're way more likely to have been a part of the transatlantic slave trade. So this 1526 stuff is just for show and to distance yourself and say you're unique. But you're not unique. You're just making stuff up. The probability of you having descendants that go back to the 1526 expedition is so low. It's like, it's unlikely. You know, so this is just a made up stuff to make y'all feel good about yourselves. It's just a made up story. The majority of enslaved Africans were taken to the Caribbean and South America, particularly Brazil. So about 48% of them were taken to the Caribbean, 41% were taken to Brazil, and a whopping 3% were taken to the US. Only 3% of the slaves brought into the transatlantic slave trade were brought to America. Only 3% of them. Most of them went to the Caribbean and and South America. And y'all want us to believe that what happened to that 3% in America was worse than what happened to the majority of them elsewhere. I don't buy it. I just don't believe it. This is like fake outrage, trying to get fake sympathy, and you're just not going to get it. Not from me. This whole thing seems like a farce. All right, but let's go back to the FBA website and continue reading. So it says, since that defining moment in 1526, the culture and identity of foundational Black Americans have been deeply rooted in building resilience, resistance, and an unwavering fight for justice. This spirit of perseverance and ingenuity has shaped every aspect of American society, from infrastructure and agriculture to music, art, and political activism. FBA are an exceptional people whose enduring legacy continues to inspire generations. Like, y'all think very highly of yourselves. Like, y'all literally think y'all are responsible for America's success. Like, you think the slave class is what's responsible for building America. And that's just ridiculous. Like, y'all really think this spirit of perseverance, and I guess the spirit of perseverance that they're referring to is Majora. This spirit of Majora has shaped every aspect of American society. Every aspect of American society, from infrastructure and agriculture to music, art, and political activism. Y'all want to take credit for everything. And y'all are the same ones that say America is built on white supremacy. Like, where is the white supremacy in all of this? How are y'all responsible for every aspect of American society, for shaping every aspect of a white supremacist society? How are y'all responsible for shaping a white supremacist society? Like, that is unheard of. America is built on white supremacy when it's convenient for y'all to get reparations. And America is built on Majora when it's convenient for y'all to get credit for building America. Like, y'all do whatever y'all can to take, y'all either want credit or reparations. If you can't get credit for building, you either want credit for building the greatest country in the world, or you want reparations from the greatest country in the world. But the people that built it can't be asking for reparations. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That's a ridiculous stance to take. FBA are an exceptional people whose enduring legacy continues to inspire generations. Like, FBA thinks everybody just leeches off of everything they do. They are the world's inspiration for everything. I've never seen anything like this. Like, it is like they have such a for people that talk about white privilege, FBA has such a black privilege stance. Like, they swear like these are like a black supremacist, black nationalist group. At best, they are black supremacist. FBA is a black supremacist organization. And I think if they continue on this path, they may soon be labeled domestic terrorists. Because this is madness. But let me read some more. It says, it is important to clarify that Foundational Black Americans is not a group or an organization, and there is no designated leader of FBA. Y'all need to cut it out. They got an official website. I'm at the official FBA website. And everything in here is written by Tariq Nasheed. You got an official website. Y'all have conferences. Y'all have everything, but y'all not a group. But you're not an organization. Y'all have to stay on code. Your whole thing is about staying on code. On what code? What code are you supposed to stay on if you're not a group or an organization? FBA is a lineage-based designation. You're not lineage-based. That's foolishness. You can't be lineage-based. FBA, like, your lineage is that you all were slaves in America. That's not lineage. You all don't go back to the same bloodline. It's likely that FBA people have blood relatives with Caribbean people. It's more likely that you have blood relatives that are Caribbeans or in South America than in America. Your blood lineage is more likely to be in the Caribbean or in South America than it is in America, because slaves were broken up. That was a part of the policy of dealing with slaves. You break up families, you break them up and send them off to different places. So what is this lineage you're talking about? This is a fake lineage. Everything about FBA right now is fake. This whole talk about building America from the ground up, fake. This whole talk about a lineage, fake news. Everything about it is fake news. Talking about you inspire generations, fake news. All of this is simply fake, just made up stuff to exalt yourselves. I've never seen a people more willing and wanting to exalt themselves. And I've said it before, like, I'm convinced that this is all a part of the fifth element of hip hop and their original man, the black man is God. This is all a part of that mentality. Thinking that FBA is foundational to America is the same as the Hotep talk. Foundational Black Americans are just Hotep Americans. Hotep people claim they created Egypt, and FBA claim they created America, but they're both mistaken. But it's that original man, we created civilization, gods and earths of the universe, cream of the planet Earth, blah, blah, blah. It's all of that mentality that's spewing out of FBA. But all of it is just fake. It's not a lineage. It is not a lineage. The reason that black people were united and considered themselves black people and Africans is because we knew we were split up and everybody was all over the place. So we called each other's brothers and sisters because we knew we could be brothers and sisters. Again, it's more likely your brothers and sisters are in the Caribbean or in South America than that your brothers and sisters are here. FBA, you're being ridiculous. It's a fake lineage. It says there is no, FBA is a lineage-based designation that specifically refers to the over 43 million Black Americans who are direct descendants of the freedmen, the formerly enslaved Black people who were emancipated in the United States. Y'all acting like all those freedmen were all of the same lineage, were all of the same bloodline. They're not. Those freedmen were just a bunch of different Africans. So y'all don't go back to the same bloodline. FBA is a lineage-based designation that specifically refers to the over 43 million Black Americans who are direct descendants of the freedmen, the formerly enslaved Black people who were emancipated in the United States. This lineage represents a unique and unbroken connection to the foundational builders of this nation. I totally disagree with that. This nation started to be built after slavery was abolished and after the Civil War. That's when this country was built, and that has nothing to do with slavery. Slavery was what was building the Confederacy. Foundational Black Americans are foundational to the Confederacy. They're foundational to the America, to the vision of America that was built around slavery. And that's the Confederacy. That's the America that lost the war. That's what America defeated. FBA is foundational to what America fought against. Slavery is not foundational to America. Freedom is foundational to America. What's foundational to America is what America fought for in the Civil War. Not slavery. Again, slavery is foundational to the South and to the South's vision of America. That's why the 1526, 1619, all of those things happened in the South. All these slaves were going to the South. Most slaves ended up in the South. That's why FBA people will tell you they come from the South. FBA's lineage goes back to the South, the slave states, and trying to build slavery. For the most part, the northern states were freedmen, free Black people, free white people. It was in the South where most of the slaves were. Were there a handful of slaves in the North? Sure, but most of them in the South. That's why FBA claims they're from the South. They're the Southern Blacks. But you didn't build America. You were building the Confederacy. That's what FBA built. You're foundational to you should call yourself FBC, Foundational Black Confederates. Because that's what you're foundational to, the Confederacy. That's who slavery was, that's what slavery was building. Slavery was building the Confederacy, not the United States of America. And it ends by saying, we honor and celebrate the rich history, cultural contributions, and unyielding strength of foundational Black Americans. This recognition is not only a tribute to our ancestors, but also a commitment to preserving and advancing the legacy they established. And of course, they got gear. They got a lot of gear. They're not a group or an organization, but they got trademarked apparel. That's interesting. They got a whole flag. Are you not a group or an organization, but you got a flag? You got a whole Black Power flag. FBA Black Power flag. I told y'all Black Power is Caribbean stuff. Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, the Caribbean, he is Black Power. So FBA can't be claiming Black Power. No, y'all go figure something else out. But you can't be talking about no FBA Black Power. Black Power is already taken. And that's a Black people thing. Y'all not Black people, y'all are FBA. They got Tariq's book, but Tariq ain't the leader. Okay. and they have a FBA nation maroon flag. It says the FBA nation maroon flag commemorates the legacy of foundational Black American Maroons who fought for freedom in America during the formal slavery era. Thousands of foundational Black Americans escaped bondage and formed their own independent Maroon communities in swamp areas around the southern United States. Yeah, whoop-de-doo. That's not unique to America. Or Maroon towns all over Jamaica and in the Caribbean. In South, everywhere there are slaves, there are Maroon. There's Maroon town. That's not unique. The axes and torch on the flag represent weapons used by many Maroons to obtain their freedom. Even though there were dozens of Maroon communities around the country, the 5 stars on the Maroon flag represent the 5 primary locations where Maroon societies were established: Virginia, North and South Carolina, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana. And like I said, the South. There's an FBA bandana, a large FBA flag. Everything is there. There's even an FBA holiday. There's an FBA holiday, but it's not a group or an organization, but there's a FBA holiday. Arutasusi. Pronounced Arutasusi. I got it right. Arutasusi is a holiday that celebrates the foundational Black American culture of freedom fighting and resistance. Arutasusi means arise in the traditional foundational Black American Tut language. They have a language. There's a whole language, but it's not a group. Who came up with this language? That's crazy. Is this language? This is different from the AAVE, the African American Vernacular English. This Tut is something different. Okay. And it says, during the antebellum slavery period in America, many foundational Black Americans would cleverly plot and execute their escape from bondage around the Christmas season. These enslaved freedom warriors understood that slave owners would be more preoccupied with holiday festivities during this time of year. Also, enslaved foundational Black Americans were allowed more access to visit family and friends on other plantations during this season as well. The rebel warriors used these relaxed policies as an opportunity to rise to freedom. I'm noticing that everything about FBA is centered around slavery. The holiday is centered around slavery, is about slavery. Their flag, the components of their flag is about slavery. The idea that they're foundational is because of slavery. Everything about them is about slavery. Like FBA have a slave mentality. Being an FBA is like being someone with a slave mentality. It's as if you think slavery just ended 2 days ago. Like, that's why they still refer to themselves as freedmen. Imagine, slavery ended 300 years ago now. Damn near 300 years ago, slavery ended. And we have people today calling themselves freedmen, that they were freed from slavery. That is ridiculously absurd. That is laughable, that y'all still refer to yourselves as freedmen after 300 years of slavery. Like, y'all swear, like, it's as if y'all think y'all just escaped from the South and came up north and was like, yeah, we is free. Like, this is what FBA is. FBA is that stereotypical Black American from the South that didn't know he's been free for all these years. Like, just still thinks he's a slave and doesn't know slavery ended. You know that stereotypical Black American from the South? Like, this is why that's why Northern Blacks say Southern Blacks are kind of backwards, because they don't realize they're free. Like, you know what I mean? Even the celebration of Juneteenth is about Black people realizing they were free late in the game. Like, people had to go in and be like, no, y'all ain't slaves no more. You're free now. And that's still going on today. These people still think they are slaves, or that slavery just ended yesterday. Why are you still referring to yourself? Like everything about you is slavery related. You have a slave's mentality. You think you're still a slave. And that is sad. But everything is centered around slavery. That's what I'm noticing. What else? Another celebration. Another celebration that was prevalent among enslaved people in the America was a parade called Junkanu. Junkanu. Foundational Black Americans engaged in these activities around Christmas time, where they would parade around to different plantations, playing multiple instruments while dressed in outrageous costumes. They would often dress in costumes that mocked the white slave owners. Some believe the Junkanu celebrations were often used as distractions to divert attention away from the enslaved people who were trying to escape to freedom. Arutasuse, or Arise Day, will be celebrated every year on December 24th. So they're still celebrating these slave holidays. These we just got free. I wonder if they're going to do a Junkanu one. Is there going to be a Junkanu holiday? Let's see. It says on Arise Day, or Arutasuse, on this day, foundational Black Americans should gift another person a book that will lift the consciousness of that person. This will pay homage to the foundational Black American ancestors who risked their lives learning how to read and teaching others to read. So you're supposed to kind of behave like you're a slave. Or go read about slavery. Give someone a book about slavery. Understanding this history will help us step into each new year with a sense of empowerment, and we will make that empowerment part of our tradition and culture. Nothing empowers a people more than studying about their history as a slave. It's ridiculous. If you want to empower people, you don't teach them, you don't tell them to go study about the times when they were slaves. Is it me? How empowering is that, to give someone a slave mentality and just say, oh, you were a slave? Everybody was slaves, man. Everybody was a slave. African Americans, the slavery experience of the African American is no more unique or atrocious or devastating or hard to deal with than any other people's slavery. It just is not. I don't think so at all. I think Caribbean slavery was more harsh. I think Caribbean slavery was way more harsh than American slavery. What people in the Caribbean had to endure, simply because there were so many more of them. I believe since there were so many more of them, they were just a lot more harsh towards them. And so the slave experience of the Caribbean, in the Caribbean, is more harsh than in America, in my estimation. So for y'all to be talking about, oh, we endured the worst thing, man, y'all looking for pity from who? The 3 stars on, let's talk about the flag. They got the flag. They're going to talk about the flag. The 3 stars of the flag, the FBA flag meaning, the meaning of the flag. Maybe the flag has nothing to do with slavery. Let's see. The 3 stars represent the 3 groups who make up the ethnic group that would become foundational Black Americans. The Black Aboriginal people of North America. Also, they do acknowledge the Abos. They do acknowledge the Black Aboriginal people. So it's the Black Aboriginal people of North America, the Black explorers and traders who had contact with the Americas before Columbus, and the captives brought to the Western Hemisphere from America. So those are the 3 stars. The Abos, or the indigenous Blacks, the Black explorers that came to the Americas before Columbus, and then the slaves that were brought over in 1526. Those are the 3 branches of FBA. Aboriginals, explorers that came before Columbus, right? They came before Columbus. And then the slaves that were brought over. So 3 branches or 3 stars of FBA. The fist represents the non-stop fight that foundational Black Americans have engaged in against white supremacy. This battle began on this land in 1526. So the fist is about white supremacy. The olive branches represent the historic camaraderie and peace between the black-skinned Aboriginal and the Black captives on this land. The white background represents the system of white supremacy being a constant threat, and the activity on top represents foundational Black Americans never surrendering to white supremacy. The red, white, and blue color scheme pays homage to the foundational Black American teen girl Grace Wisher, who helped craft the current United States flag. That's interesting. That's so interesting. Grace Wisher. The 9 red stripes. The 9 red stripes represents the 9 significant slave rebellions that shaped policies on this land. The 9 red stripes is for slave. So again, it's all about slavery. FBA is a slave mentality. They're like still slaves. Who is foundational Black American and who is not? A foundational Black American is any person classified as Black who can trace their bloodline heritage, their bloodline lineage back to the American system of slavery. To be designated as a FBA, at least one parent must come from a non-immigrant background in the United States of America. If a person's matrilineal and patrilineal lineage traces back to slavery in the Caribbean, then they are not considered a foundational Black American. How does a person trace their lineage back to American slavery? The process of determining if you're a descendant of foundational Black American survivors of the American slave trade is relatively easy. 5 years after formal slavery was abolished in America, the U.S. government provided detailed information about the foundational Black American population for the first time. The 1870 census provided the first detailed accounting of the Black population, and if a person can trace their lineage to the 1870 census, they were most likely a descendant of foundational Black Americans who were enslaved. Okay. So couldn't there have been Caribbean Blacks on that census? I don't know. Maybe I'm like, I don't know. I could be wrong. But the 1870 census, some of those Blacks that appear on it could have been Caribbean, right? So if you trace your heritage back to 1870 census, it could be to a Black immigrant in 1870, to a Black Caribbean. But that would still make you foundational, right? Simply because you go back to 1870. So is it 1870 or is it 1526? Because the fact that you go back to 1870 doesn't mean that you're tied to 1526, right? That's ridiculous. So which is it? Is FBA going back to 1870 or is it going back to 1526? This is stupid. The 1900 census is also a good verification resource. Because of the influx of immigrants to the U.S. at the time, the 1900 census has even more detailed information, which includes race, citizenship, nativity, meaning the birthplace of a person's interest, right? So now they're addressing that one. So in the So if you go back to 1900, it'll say whether the people are Caribbean or not. And that'll be, now y'all all over the place, bro. Somebody's gonna have to explain this, make sense of this to me. But this whole thing doesn't make any sense. It just does not. Because even somebody who's here in 1900, if you go back to someone who was on the census in 1900, how do you know those people aren't Caribbean? They didn't have to have put nativity on there. They don't have to. Or especially the 18. Okay, so you're making it clear that in 1900 they did all that, but in 1870 they didn't. In 1870 they didn't. So someone in 1900 who says their nativity is America could still have nativity in the Caribbean, because they're just saying, because maybe their mother and father were born here, but their grandparents could have been Caribbean. Anyway, this type of information is important when foundational Black Americans present a reparations claim, because every potential beneficiary should be able to provide plausible and legitimate documentation about their lineage. This is all about reparations. This whole FBA thing is all about them wanting a reparations claim. And it must be that they want a reparations claim from America, from the government. You know what I'm saying? Because why else would this even matter? Which is why I'm against that reparations. Y'all want reparations, y'all got to go to whatever companies were enslaving y'all. And they're going to have records of who was enslaved, and y'all have your lineage to prove that you were related to those people that worked. So go seek your lineage, your reparations there. But why would, you know what I mean? Because Caribbean people won't have a say in it, because Caribbean people ain't going to be tracing their lineage back to any of those companies. So if you're tracing your lineage back to companies that enslaved people, then knock yourselves out. But this is about reparations from the American government. No, you ain't getting that. I'm not really with that. And this is what this is about. You don't want Caribbean people to get reparations from the American government. I agree with you. I don't want Caribbean blacks to get reparations from the American government. That's crazy. I also don't want American blacks to get reparations from the American government. That's also crazy. What is the status of people with half FBA and half immigrant lineage? Good question. If you're a person classified as Black, who has one parent from an immigrant background and another parent who can be traced to the American slave plantations, then you are considered a foundational Black American still. This is a very important caveat with this designation. An FBA individual whose non-FBA parental lineage comes from a person who immigrated to the United States after 1970 should not be considered or looked upon as a representative or spokesperson for serious political, social, economic, or judicial issues that affect foundational Black Americans collectively. Collectively? But this ain't a group. How is it collectively and you're not a group? What collective are you talking about? So if you came here after 1970, if your lineage comes from some people who came here after 1970, you're not FBA. But if your lineage was here before 1970, you are FBA. Yo, that's stupid. FBA is stupid. The only exception to this rule is if the half FBA individual has a verified track record of loyalty. That's a track record of loyalty and tangible contributions to the betterment of foundational Black Americans on a grassroots level. Yo, this is so stupid. The reason this rule applies to half FBA people whose immigrant lineage came to the U.S. after 1970 is because the African and Caribbean immigrants before that time frame had a different collective disposition in relation to FBA. They were nicer to FBA people. These people coming here after 1970 apparently are just not very nice to FBA. So FBA don't want nothing. Y'all can't get none of their reparations. If you came here before 1970, we'll give you some because y'all were nice to us. But after that, no. Y'all are not nice, so no reparations for you. This is just ridiculous. The Immigration Act of 1965 was a law that foundational Black Americans fought for in order to help Black people from Africa and the Caribbean come to the U.S. and assist FBA's reinforcement against systematic white supremacy. This was because the few Black people who were able to immigrate to the U.S. before 1965 acted as strong allies to foundational Black Americans. During the Jim Crow era in America, African and Caribbean immigrants did not have their own segregated enclaves apart from FBA. In order for them to thrive, they had to have unity with foundational Black Americans and get on code with them against a common enemy, which was or is white supremacy. So the ones that came before 1965 were strong allies. The ones today are just not. They just are not. The ones before were helping us to fight against white supremacy. Immigrants today are working with white supremacy. Because of their track record of loyalty and dedication to the fight against white supremacy during this era, Many Black immigrants and half FBA activists became respected spokespersons for foundational Black Americans. People like Jamaican immigrant Marcus Garvey and half FBA Malcolm X, whose father was FBA and mother was from Grenada, became icons to FBA. Yep. And after 1970, things changed. J. Edgar Hoover's FBI COINTELPRO agenda was in full swing at this time, targeting and neutralizing Black organizations and any forms of Black solidarity with other empowerment-minded individuals. This was also the time when large groups of African and Caribbean immigrants were being allowed to come to the U.S. The government would come up with ways to use some immigrant groups as buffers against foundational Black Americans. So what I thought y'all said, it was Black Americans that were getting these immigrants to come here to fight for them, to fight with them, right? That's what they said before. FBA made it possible for immigrants to come here so that they could assist us fight against white supremacy. Now it's saying that it's white supremacy that was bringing them in to help them assist with fighting against FBA. It says the government, this was the time when large groups of African and Caribbean immigrants were being allowed to come to the US. The government would come up with ways to use some immigrant groups as buffers against foundational Black Americans. The US government didn't intend on allowing another Marcus Garvey or Stokely Carmichael type of immigrant come among FBA society. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. FBA made it possible for immigrants to come here and help FBA fight the good fight. But then when the government got hip to it and saw that they were bringing over these Marcus Garvey types, the government was like, put an end to that. And the government started bringing in less of the Marcus Garvey type and more of the Marcus Cooney type. And then, the government just started using these immigrant groups as they saw fit and to work in favor of white supremacy or to be, vanguards of white supremacy. So the government kind of switched what the FBA intended in terms of what the FBA wanted to do with the immigrants that they made possible to come in. The government switched the purpose of that. And so now, since that purpose is switched, then their attitude towards their attitude towards immigrants is going to change. Because, instead of working against white supremacy, you're working for white supremacy. Okay, got it. Starting in the 1970s, the US government implemented a benign neglect policy against foundational Black Americans while they began to prioritize allocating tangible resources to immigrant groups. Consequently, this incentivized many individuals from immigrant backgrounds to collaborate with white supremacists and sabotage progress for FBA. So immigrants are just white supremacists at this point. Immigrants are working for white supremacists as far as FBA is concerned. That is what FBA thinks of Black immigrants. Nowadays, we've gone from being allies to now being white supremacists. We are immigrant supremacists. So, where we thought it was just an issue of, these tethers, they're just coming here and taking the benefits of the stuff we've worked for. Like, I thought that was the argument against immigrants, that they just felt that they were trying to get their reparations, taking all of the affirmative action positions, their welfare stuff. Immigrants were just, taking advantage of these stuff. I thought that's the argument, but now I'm realizing that's the least of the concern. The main concern here is that immigrants are working for white supremacists. They're working alongside white supremacists to undermine FBA, right? That's really what they're saying. And that's why this is such this is such like a needed conversation to be had. Because this is how far we've come. We've gone from being allies to being enemies, like sworn enemies. The danger, it goes on to speak about the danger of dual allegiances. Historically, there have been two types of half FBA individuals in a general sense. One, loyalists to their FBA lineage and heritage. Two, anchored tethers who view FBA society as a group to exploit and ultimately replace. Right? So they are working with so the tethers are the ones working with white supremacists. FBA has to currently be skeptical about certain half FBA people who want to act as spokespersons for FBA collectively. If a person has dual allegiances to different ethnic groups and cultures, it's difficult to determine if they will look out for the best interest of FBA. So are you an ethnic group or not? Are you a group or not? You're not a group, but you're an ethnic group. Even if a person has full allegiances to different ethnic groups and cultures, it's difficult to determine if they will look out for the best interest of FBA. Even full FBA, who has a history of prioritizing other groups, religions, and sexual intersectionality over the best interests of foundational Black Americans, must be viewed with reservations. You got to be all about FBA. You got to be blackity black, foundational Black. In almost all Native and Aboriginal societies, when the people allowed outsiders with dual allegiances to other nations or ethnic groups to act as their representatives, this ultimately caused the decline of their societies. This happened in the 16th century when Portuguese colonizers, see what I'm saying? Hold on. See, like they're really against dual allegiances, which means that they're against immigration. So this again shows how un-American FBA are. Because the foundation of America is immigration. Immigrants are foundational to America, not FBA. Immigrants are. The idea of immigrations comes, that's why the Statue of Liberty says, send me your tired and poor. Like, America asks for immigrants to come here. That's what America asks the world to do, and they don't even want the best of them. He says, send me your tired and your poor and the ones that are huddled in masses. Those are the ones to send. You know what I'm saying? That's the Statue of Liberty. America invites immigrants here. FBA rejects immigrants. FBA is an un-American group that thinks they're not a group. But they are just un-American. In every way, it seems FBA. So let me read again. It says, in almost all Native and Aboriginal societies, when the people allowed outsiders with dual allegiances to other nations or ethnic groups to act as their representatives, this ultimately caused the decline of their societies. So no more will we have the Marcus Garvey types, the Stokely Carmichael types, the Barack Obama types, the Kamala Harris types speaking for us. You know what I'm saying? I don't know who's going to speak for y'all now. Lord Jamar, the flat earth guy? Lord Jamar is now your spokesperson. Tariq Nasheed is now your spokesperson. The pimp, Tariq the pimp, is now your spokesperson. You don't want a Caribbean, you want a pimp. Okay, knock yourselves out. So they can't be spokespeople. This ultimately, whenever they have spokespeople from other groups, this ultimately causes the decline of their societies. This happened in the 16th century when Portuguese colonizers called Lancados married into royal West African families. The mixed race offspring from these unions, who were elevated to powerful positions, often sided with the Europeans' side of their lineage to ultimately undermine African society and help facilitate the transatlantic slave trade. That's who tethers are being, equated to. Portuguese colonizers. Like tethers are being equated with colonizers who are here to help facilitate FBA slavery. Once again, the same thing happened to many Native American tribes who allowed European colonizers to intermarry into their groups and become representatives for them. This was the beginning of the decline of their societies. In modern times, the white establishment deliberately elevates non-FBA or anchored tethers to act as spokespersons and leaders for foundational Black Americans. And the results of this practice has been devastating for FBA. For this reason, foundational Black Americans should only consider other qualified, full FBA representatives to act as spokespersons for the collective interests of the ethnic group. I thought y'all weren't a group. You're an ethnic group, not a group. Okay, makes perfect nonsense. But man, y'all are a group. You're a Black supremacy group. FBA is a Black supremacist group here to fight against white supremacy. It's Black supremacy versus white supremacy. That's what's happening here. And that's what you are. That's really and truly what FBA is about. That's my takeaway from this website, from what I have read here. And it's the craziest thing. Y'all are a Black supremacist group that has a slave mentality. How y'all think y'all are superior, but you have a slave mentality? You just think you got out of slavery yesterday. You're freedmen. You want reparations, but you're superior. How you superior and you want reparations for what happened to you? Man, y'all need to really reevaluate your positions. Y'all need to really reevaluate your positions. But that's it. That's the FBA website. That's the Foundational Black American website. That's everything you need to know about FBA. And it sounds to me like a grand scam. It sounds to me like nothing but a grand scam. All right, y'all. I don't think there's anything more for me to say about this. So, that's about it. Thank y'all for taking the time to watch the video. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification, turn on your notifications, please. You know what I mean? Subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. We need subscribers, And yeah, man, hit that cash app. American Dream is alive. All right, y'all. Bless yourselves. Be good. Catch y'all on the next one.
Recognize royalty. Recognize it. Recognize royalty. Gotta recognize it. Recognize royalty. Like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel. Recognize royalty. I can see. Recognize royalty. Now I recognize royalty. Royal to these eyes. Royalty. I can see. Recognize.
Hey,
Recognize royalty, recognize it, recognize royalty, gotta recognize it, recognize royalty, like they ain't got eyes to recognize royalty. I can feel, recognize royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, now I recognize royalty, royalty inside, royalty, I can see, recognize royalty, I can love, recognize royalty, now I recognize. I recognize it. Royalty, I recognize passion. Never just the man with the title in his hand, with the vital in his hand, with the Bible in his hand. You never just the man with the scepter in demand, with the lecture in the stand, with the vector and the candle. Can you understand the brand from the texture of the hand? Hard at work, are you hard at work, working with the man? Oh, it's the ring of royalty. Crown him king, just a thing, letting loyalty ring. Bring frankincense and myrrh and other things. It's gold already blings from the highest that prizes, no sins. Recognize the king's overruling commandments with the Trinity and the power it brings. When you recognize royalty, I feel it. I can see. Yeah, I see it. I recognize now. Royalty. I can see. I see it. Now I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Recognize royalty. Sunrise royally. Sitting on top of the world. I'm five morally. Status of a king for surely. Morally we bang till we stop the impurity. We pop up just for recognition. Listen to the missionary on a mission with the visionary vision. Do you recognize intuition? I reel in men when I went out fishing. I tell you why they rocked the boat, cause they didn't understand what the prophet wrote. What's the conniption? Choose the Jews' crucifixion and refuse recognition at son child's christening in the mix of some. Insist they fix the system from malarkey back to my monarchy. Yeah, back above me. Don't soil my purple and blue, and I will recognize your royalty too. I can feel you. I feel it. I can see it. I can see it. Now I recognize now. Royalty inside. Your royalty. I can see it. I see it. I can love it. And I'm in love now. I recognize your passion. Royalty.
Hey, what's happening, people? What's goody? Yo, we here. It's a lovely Saturday afternoon, and we up in here. You heard? I just wanted to talk today about a couple of things, and I heard over the this couple of clips I saw over the past couple of days that I wanted to share. I thought it was quite interesting. I wanted to share that with y'all and just talk about that. Just the whole idea of how the FBA leader that they claim ain't their leader, had some strong words, had some choice words rather about, Black people. And it makes sense that he seems to think Black people are foundational to pretty much every civilization that existed, and especially the civilizations that that are worth something. Like the FBA leader doesn't just stop and think that Black people built America. Like, that's the interesting part. Like, the FBA, Tariq doesn't
just think that Black people built America. FBA people think they built Europe. They built everywhere. Egypt, Phoenicia. Like, I'm like, wow, the Moors, they're Abos, like they are FBA people think they're everywhere. They're the original Hebrews. You know, and that's just interesting. So it doesn't surprise me that we are now going through the FBA, Foundational Black American stage, where, you know, since they're taking credit for every civilization of value. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that they've now come to claim America, that they built America. You know, they're at least they're being consistent. At least they're being consistent, and that's what I want to talk about tonight, because I think that's very interesting. That just that whole idea. All right, so you know the title of today's show is the FBA leader. The FBA leader says Blacks are foundational to everywhere. Blacks are foundational to everywhere. And if y'all don't believe me, again, fair use disclaimer. I'm gonna play some clips, but you know, it's just for educational use. It's for criticism. So you know, this is a fair use disclaimer of these video clips. You know what I mean? I hope that suffices. I'm gonna have to do some research on how to, whether or not I even have to be doing this when I'm playing people's videos. If I have to do a disclaimer for fair use, I should be allowed to use this in fairness. It's only fair. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I found a video with the FBA leader, Tariq Nasheed. And I know they say he's not their leader, but he's their leader. He would have to be their leader. He would have to. And, you know, some people say, like, you know, the argument is being made that, you know, all FBA is, like, they don't understand why people have a problem with FBA, because all it is a lineage. It just means that you have lineage. Your slave lineage is in America, and that's it. That's all it means. And so for that reason, I'm an FBA, right? If my slave lineage goes back to America, as Tariq says, 1870, right? You know, they're using Tariq's definition, right? They're going back to when Tariq says it applies. You know what I'm saying? Because if that date changes, everything changes. If that date changes, some of the people that are FBA today may not be FBA if that date changes. But they're going by Tariq's definition, right? And that's what they're saying makes them FBA. Oh man, sometimes I should just say what I'm saying because it be like slipping my brain. But yeah, if you're FBA, yeah, they think that to be FBA simply means you have heritage, you have slave ancestry in America, right? But that's not all FBA is. If you call yourself an FBA, when you call yourself an FBA, you're not just saying you have slave heritage in America. You're also saying that you are foundational to America. Right? You're calling yourself a foundational Black American, and you're accepting and promoting and validating the idea that slaves are foundational to America, right? And so for that reason, you're pseudo, right? And that's why there's something wrong, because you're not just saying that you have slave ancestry in America. Just me and a Black American said you had slave ancestry here. Whatever. Saying you're foundational Black America is saying you built America. That's what it means. And that's why we have a problem with it. It's you built America. You didn't build America. You didn't put in any more work into building America than anybody else did. Certainly not them white folks. Certainly not them. You know what I'm saying? And in my humble opinion, certainly not immigrants. We ain't put in more work than immigrants.
And I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, immigrants are more foundational to America than slaves or slavery. America got rid of slavery and started promoting immigration. That's what America is built on. But anyway, the idea of, FBA being foundational and that they built America is not a new idea. It's an idea that, and I don't want to say Black Americans, but because it's not just Black Americans, but Black people in general. But me, myself personally, I didn't become, open to these ideas. I didn't know of these ideas until I came to America. And when I go to Jamaica, nobody really talks. I don't really see the communities in Jamaica are non-existent, really. But there are always Black Americans think they are the original Hebrews. They are the Hebrew Israelites, the Black Hebrews. They are the Black Moors. They are the Abels. They built according to them, they built all of these civilizations. They built the Hebrew Israelite civilization. They built the Abel indigenous civilization. They built the Moorish civilization. They built Europe. They actually think they built Europe. They built the Phoenician. Like anything of value, FBA people think they built it. So it's not surprising that they think they built America as well. It's only right because America is the greatest civilization in history. So of course they're going to claim that one. If they're claiming all the great civilizations, they are going to claim this one, and they're going to go full force for it. You know what I'm saying? Especially since they see that they have that slavery link to it. But it is what it is. So, but again, the idea is that they think they're foundational to everywhere. And I just want to share some clips that I found. Again, fair use. I'm going to share some clips that I found.
Can I say something real quick?
Leader. Yep, he's your leader.
Yeah, just give me 1 second, please.
Saying some very interesting stuff. Let's hear this.
The original Phoenicians were
Hey, peace, Isaiah. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine. How you doing, sir?
I can't complain at all. Blessings to you. Thanks for coming in.
Yes, I'm very enlightened to be here and to share my conjecture on the situation, because I think a lot of people are just confused about FBA and what we are, who we are, and what our importance is to this country. And I just want to give my conjecture, if you don't mind.
Sure, please go ahead, do your thing.
Okay, so besides Tariq Nasheed, okay, he's the one that coined the phrase FBA. Okay, it stands for Foundational Black Americans. Okay, it's just another term for Black Americans. Okay, he just added the foundational to it because all these years, all these hundreds of years, white man wants to call us what they want to call us. They want to call us Negro. They want to call us Afro-American. They want to call us niggas. They want to call us all kind of different names that a lot of people from the Caribbean island and other places don't know because they weren't here to experience the type of trauma that our people experience here in this country. Okay, for hundreds of years, people don't understand that. My people, okay, come from South Carolina. Both my mother and my father, they face trauma living in the South. They hate the South so much. God bless them. My father gone, but they faced so much trauma in the South that when they came up to the Bronx, to New York City, they didn't want to go back to the South because that's how much pain they endured while they was in the South. Okay, so what I'm saying to you is the post-traumatic stress that Black Americans go through because we dealt with the slavery, we dealt with the discrimination, we dealt with the Jim Crow. All that is still relevant to today's society and how we feel, how we act, and how we carry ourselves. You understand? A lot of people that come from the Caribbean that come here, They don't understand that pain because they was in the islands. They weren't here in the South going through what Black Americans went through. Okay, so when Tariq Nasheed talks about foundational to this country, that is exactly right. Foundational to this country, nowhere else, to America. Because when we came here, we were slaves, we were chattel, we weren't even looked at as human beings. That wasn't, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they faced that same thing in Jamaica and in the islands too, because we all came on the slave ships, and we came here, some were already here, but the majority came on the slave ships. Okay, so the ones that came on the slave ships, and the ones that were already here, band together to overcome the stuff that we went through, with slavery. Okay, but while we were here, because of, like he said, this ethnogenesis that we went through, we made our own culture here. Because of that hundreds of years of being here, we have so many different contributions that we have created because of that ethnogenesis in this country. You understand? So when he talks about, I don't know anything about the Phoenicians and all the type of stuff you talk about. That type of stuff don't have nothing to do with foundational Black Americans. Only thing we can talk about is what we laid down here. What we laid down here in this country. Okay? So when he talks about foundational, he means foundational because it's our blood, sweat, and tears that we went through that built this country. It was cotton. It was picking those, going in the fields, picking the cotton, picking the tobacco, all that type of agriculture that us Black Americans, okay, that we did is the basis for the wealth of this country. And it's because of that the Civil War happened, and it's because of that they had to give us our rights eventually because we were a big problem for them. They had to free us eventually. But with that freeing us, they still kept us enslaved because they had the black codes, they had the segregation, they had the black codes, they had all kind of different laws, legal laws against us that we didn't have rights. I mean, you didn't see that in any other country. You didn't see where, any other blacks, not even in Jamaica. Hold on. Not even in Jamaica.
Right. Let me just say something. Do you believe that in those other countries, even though there weren't black codes, there weren't Jim Crow
segregation, there wasn't none of that stuff there. None of that.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that the people in those other countries, after those countries were emancipated, do you believe that the slaves in those countries still had difficulties to deal with?
Sure, they had difficulties, but their difficulties.
Right. Now, they may not, and that's my whole point. They may not have been these legal terms of Jim Crow, but those slaves in those Caribbean countries were still going through a lot, which is why they were all trying to still, even to today, they're still trying to move here. So just because there aren't any legal terms for it called Jim Crow laws doesn't mean that those people that were there weren't being discriminated against big time. And it's still happening now. There are Black Jamaicans that think they're still being discriminated against now in Jamaica. So, I'm still trying to figure out why you feel that the Black experience in America after slavery, right? Why you feel like after slavery, Black Americans had it so much harder than slaves, than freed slaves in the Caribbean, because I don't think that's necessarily true at all. And the reason I don't think that's true is because there weren't any Black Americans post-slavery that were trying to move to the Caribbean. There were Caribbean people who were trying to move here. So I'm trying to figure out why y'all think you had so much tougher than everybody else.
I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, so like I said, there was nowhere else did they have systematic, and I'm talking about systematic. Y'all had your little thing going on there. Yeah, y'all had discrimination, but y'all didn't have actual laws, okay, in the books in Jamaica or any of those islands that was systematically keeping y'all away from what y'all. Matter of fact, y'all even had like, the government, the government of Jamaica.
That's not even true. Like if you If you look into Rastafarian history, Rastafarians will tell you that there were laws against them specifically, right? And I'm sure there were laws against not just Rastafarians, but other groups of blacks there were laws against the what do you call those people that went up into the hills, the Maroons. Of course, there were laws against specifically set against groups of black people because they were trying to get their freedom. Again, I'm not
pretty much ran their own government. But hold on, they pretty much ran their own government. What I'm trying to explain to you, in those islands, a lot of people that's of those islands, they ran their own governments, meaning they pretty much, for the most part, I'm not saying all the way, but for the most part.
When did Jamaica gain its independence to run its own government?
I'm talking about black people. I'm talking about black people. Black people of the islands were running their own government, whereas here,
until they gained independence, until those Caribbean countries gained independence, they were all ran by the British. They were still British colonies, and most of them got their independence in the early 20th century, 1960s maybe. Why are you saying that they were running their own countries? And they weren't independent until very recently.
Okay, but hold on. You might be true, but for the most part, if you look at the history, y'all had it. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that y'all had it so much better, but you know what I'm saying. You got to understand where we coming from, because when y'all come to this country,
Isaiah, if we had it so much better. If we had it so much better, why were people leaving the Caribbean to come here? And why is it even today? And why is it even today when they come here and face what y'all are facing, what Black Americans are facing?
Economics, because we were able to.
They still don't even understand what your complaints
That's
are.
why you think we saying that we the foundation to this country, man. Because it's our blood, sweat, and tears that helped build that country to the point where it was the richest country in this world. The United States is the richest country in this world because of the backs of black people. Okay, I'm not saying other people didn't do that.
As well, Isaiah, it's off of the
I'm not saying
as well.
I'm not saying other people didn't. I'm not saying other people didn't play a part in that. But it was the slaves.
Do you think immigrants are foundational to America?
How was it?
Do you think immigrants are also foundational to America?
I believe they played a part in it, but before y'all got here, before immigrants got here, we was here already hundreds of years building this country. We was here hundreds of years building this country, or my brother. You don't. I mean, hold on. You don't accept that we was here since the 1600s. Nobody was here. Nobody was here but us and white people.
Hold on.
So that's why we're saying we're the foundational, because when this country was first built, we were here. Nobody else is here but blacks and whites. Blacks and whites, brother.
The whites that were here, weren't the whites immigrants?
The whites were immigrants. No, brother. When they came on those ships, when they came on the ships in the 1600s, when they brought us, they came here and set shop up. And they started.
Can we have a conversation, Isaiah? Can we have a conversation?
Yes, we have the conversation.
Here on those ships, the whites that came on their ships, they were immigrants, correct?
No, because the country wasn't built yet, my brother. So how could they be immigrants to a country that wasn't built yet? That wasn't built yet.
So you're saying
it wasn't even built yet. There was no United States yet in the 1600s.
Slaves are not foundational because America wasn't built yet.
Okay, but
America wasn't built until 1776. So all of this 1600 stuff you're talking about, America wasn't built yet. So you're not foundational.
We were here. But we were here. We were here already.
So was the white man.
But,
you just
okay, but white man. That's why we're saying we're foundational to this country, brother. But why is people from the Caribbean having a problem with that with us? When we telling you we are the foundation, you can ask any black American. You can ask any black American. You can ask any black American, my brother, and they're going to tell you.
White man foundational.
No, they're not foundational.
But he was here before you.
No, he wasn't. The white man was not here before us.
Here as a slave. Didn't he?
Brother, I just told you that there were black people here already. There were black people here in this country already.
How many? How many?
I don't know. I wasn't there around the time, but there was some here already.
Isaiah, let me ask you a question,
Sir.
Isaiah.
Yes.
Isaiah,
Yes. Go ahead,
what
ask
do
me a
you
question.
think, by probability, who do you think is more likely that you are a descendant of? Do you think it's more likely that you're a descendant of the black people that were here before the white man? Or do you think it's more likely that you're a descendant of the black people that the white man brought here?
No, because I have a
You
lot of
don't know
features
that?
of African American Africans, and I have a lot of features of the Olmecs. I have a
So
lot
you
of
think,
features of Olmec people. I do.
okay, so let
So
me
I
ask you
cannot
this.
say
Maybe,
that.
okay, the average black American, not you, the average black American. Do you think the average black American is more likely going to trace his lineage to, do you think the average black American is going to more likely trace his lineage back to the slaves that the white man brought here, or back to the blacks that were here way before the white man? Who do you think the
That's
average
not
black person is?
quantifiable. That's not
Of
quantifiable.
course it is, because that's what you
No,
mean by
that's
being foundational.
not
If you're
quantifiable.
foundational,
Only thing we can tell is if we do a trace. If we do a trace, a DNA trace, like a ethno trace, you know what I'm saying? Could we know that? I haven't done that yet. I never done that. But I can tell you one thing, my people are foundational because all my family come from here. None of us are immigrants. We were in this country for centuries. I can tell you one thing. I have white in my family. I have white in my blood. Yes, I do. Because guess what? The white man was raping our women in slavery time. So we do have a lot of white blood in us too. Okay, we have Indian blood. We have African blood. We the same way Jamaicans and people from the island have what you call a Taino, all that type of stuff. They talk about our Taino blood, that Spaniard blood, and all the other mixtures. The same thing with American blacks. We have mixtures too, and because we have those mixtures, that was the ethno side that we are talking about because we have all those mixtures in us. We have Cherokee, we have Navajo, we have all kind of Indian blood in us, especially on my father's side. No, on my father and mother's side, we have Indian blood.
Are Indians foundational to America as well? They were here before you, and they were slaves.
Okay, well they're not foundational. You know why they're not foundational? They're not foundational because they didn't help build it. They didn't help build it. They didn't help build it. They were just here. They didn't help build it.
Yes, they did, Isaiah. The white man had them as slaves before they enslaved the Africans.
My brother, no.
The white man, Isaiah, you got to know your history, Isaiah.
I do know my history. I'm a history major. I'm a history major.
Isaiah,
what's your name? What's your name?
American Dream.
Oh, okay, American Dream.
The reason the white man even went to Africa to look for slaves is because the Indians couldn't handle the hard work and they were dying off. So the Indians were used as slaves before Africans. So I'm asking you, are Indians also foundational?
What did they do? If they couldn't handle it, who took the load? So you answered your own question. If they couldn't handle it, for how many hundreds of years did the black man handle the slave work for everybody, anybody? We're the ones that carried the load. You just answered your question. So I mean, I don't understand what the discrepancy is. If they couldn't handle it, right, and then they brought us here, which is the 1700s. They brought us here. If they couldn't handle the load and they took all the load on us, they even had us as chattel. They didn't look at the Indian as less than human. They looked at the black man, the African, as less than human because of our skin. Okay, so what I'm trying to explain to you is when they had us here as slaves doing all that free labor, that we didn't have no choice because we were outnumbered. Only 5% of the Africans that came off those ships came to America. So we was outnumbered 50-1. Okay, so when we came here and we was enslaved, we had to do what that white man told us because we didn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? So we had to do what we had to do to survive. So a lot of things that we did, we did it for survival.
Well. Huh? That's true of the Indian as well.
Okay,
and a lot of black people, the same way a lot of Indians died, a lot of black people died. So if the Indians are not, if Indians are not foundational because they couldn't take the work, then all of the black people that died through slavery are not foundational either because they couldn't handle the work. You're acting as if all black people could handle that work.
But hold on. Those are our ancestors. So how come I'm here? How come a lot of black Americans are still here? you know what I'm saying? And we're still thriving. So what I'm trying to say, we did stand the test of time. We did stand the test of time. We did.
So
we survived.
Native Americans are still here.
Yeah, but look where they at. They in reservations. We still in, you know what I'm saying, in society.
That's kind of what FBA wants. Doesn't FBA want to be separated? And
we in society. We made culture here. We made culture here. They didn't really make culture here, brother. If the Indians
doesn't want to, so doesn't correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't FBA kind of like want to have like their own state or something?
Our own what? Own state?
State.
Hold on. What do you mean state? We want to have our own state. What do you mean?
Be separated. Like, does
okay, let me explain that. Let me explain that. Okay, let me explain that. Let me explain that, my brother. Okay, hear me out.
You have your own flag. Like you have your own flag. Right.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Hold on. But that was way back. That was way back in the 70s. No. But hold on.
Kind of behaving as if you're on your own reservation.
Oh no. Hold on. What you got to understand is, see, that's the problem. That's the disconnect. A lot of people don't understand why FBA is what we call delineating. We're delineating. It's called delineation, my brother, and it's not because we want to. It's because we felt as though at this time. In the United States, we have to delineate, because if you look at our history, black people, black Americans are always welcoming. Always. We never had no type of dissension or no type of anything with nobody. Matter of fact, I'm from the Bronx, and guess what? I have a lot of West Indian friends, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, all that type of good stuff. But listen here, okay? That doesn't take away from my cultural background. We all got different cultures. We all got different ways of thinking, different mentalities. What he's trying to say is, we're not trying to separate ourselves in a way where we don't want to mess with y'all. But when it comes to political stuff, when it comes to stuff that we feel like we deserve, we have to kind of separate ourselves from other blacks that don't feel we deserve that. Because guess what? If you're doing that to us, okay, listen, if you're doing that to us, you're working against us. You're not helping us. So if you're not helping us and you're in the way, then we can't mess with you on that type of level. Do you understand? Because all these years we've been fighting for everybody. Fighting for Puerto Ricans. We've been fighting for Mexicans. We fight for everybody. We don't leave nobody out. If you're a minority and you say you're a person of color, we're going to fight for you. But when we see that all our fighting for you is not contributing to anything for us, guess what? We have to delineate. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about politically delineation.
Let me just say this. If that was all it was to it, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If all it was y'all wanted to delineate because whatever, I don't have an issue with that. I think you have a right to delineate. Y'all can have it. But that's not all y'all want to do. You want to
So what else we want to do? What else we want to do?
You want to delineate, and then you want to say you guys are foundational. And nobody else.
That's just facts. That has nothing to do with it. That's facts.
That's not facts.
Oh my God, my brother.
Listen.
That's the disconnect. We don't think we're better than nobody, but we are foundational to this country. We are foundational to this. African Americans, Black Americans, are foundational to this country. Okay.
Are white people foundational to this country?
White people. But we're not. Listen, we're not
yes
on that.
No, I see. That's the problem. See, you won't even answer that question.
Of course, they are foundational to this country because they're the powers that be, my brother. That's a stupid question. That's a stupid question.
Immigrants? What about immigrants in general?
They participated. They are.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
Their participation in helping, but they're not foundational. They're not foundational.
See, that's the problem we're having. Like in my estimation, Isaiah, the immigrants that came here to work are more foundational than the slaves that were here being forced to work.
Okay, but why would you say that? Why would you say that? Because you have something against Black Americans?
Because here's why I say that. Because America literally gave up slavery. And the reason they gave up slavery was for immigration. They were like, we're not going to do this with slavery. we're going to do this through immigration. The work that we're going to use to build America is going to be done through immigration, not through slavery. When America stopped slavery, Isaiah, you know what they increased? Immigration. When America stopped slavery, they increased.
It had nothing to do with immigration, my brother. It had nothing to do with immigration.
About, bro?
Nothing to do with immigration. It was a civil war. That's why the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment was made for the American freed slaves, freedmen. That's us. That's why those amendments were made for us, because they wanted to. They knew that after slavery, they had to do something with us. They couldn't just have us roaming around and not have any type of bearing on nothing, because we weren't running from our country that we are help building and that we built. We're not running,
bro. Listen to what you're saying.
We didn't flee.
Listen to what you just said, Isaiah. Listen to what you just said, Isaiah. We're gonna have to you're gonna have to allow me to speak as well. Like even what you just said, they had to find something for y'all to do.
No, they had to find something for us because guess what? We were enslaved for 100 years. We were enslaved for 100 years, my brother.
You cannot just keep cutting me off. It's just me and you. You're going to have a chance to say what you're saying, but you cannot just keep cutting me off. Even what you just said, they had to find something for you to do. They couldn't just have you running around. That statement alone means you weren't foundational. Like
we were a threat, my brother. We were a threat. My brother, we were a threat. Are you crazy? We were a threat. We were a threat. We were a threat.
Isaiah, you gotta let me finish though. Like I'm gonna finish, and then you can speak. Like talking over each other. Nobody can't hear what we're even saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying, bro. Even if I'm building a plant, and there are people there that I have to find something to do with them, then they're not foundational to that plant. Like if I had a choice, if I had my own choice, I would probably get rid of them. But since I don't have a choice, I have to figure out what to do with them. You know what I'm saying? So either you're going to change what you just said about, they had to figure out something to do with us. It can't be that and you're foundational. It just cannot. So that's the main issue I'm having with y'all, is this idea of y'all thinking you're foundational and no one else is. It's even hard for you to give the white man his props as being foundational to this country, even though in another breath, you're going to say white supremacy built this country, but you're saying white people are not foundational. Go ahead.
You just said it. My brother, you just said it. White supremacy is the foundation to this country. But hold on. They are white supremacists, the powers that be are naturally going to be foundational, but it was the blacks, it was off the backs and the blood, sweat, and tears of African American slaves that built this country, that the white man used us. They used us to build this country. Okay. They used us to build this country. So hold on, let me finish. Can I finish? Because you talk. After slavery, after the Emancipation Proclamation, when they freed us, the reason why I'm saying they had to find something for us to do, because they felt threatened by us. They knew that they enslaved us for hundreds of years. So to have hundreds of thousands of goddamn Africans roaming around the country, they didn't want us to think about trying to overthrow the government. So they had to find different methods, which they still eventually did, because they had the black codes. They kept us in line. Why do you think the cops was made? Why do you think the police department was made? To keep black people in line. Okay, they had to find a way to keep us in line. They had the slave, the Ku Klux Klan. They had all these different methods they used to keep black Americans in line after slavery and after the Emancipation Proclamation was ratified. Okay, so in order for them to keep us in line, hold on. Also, you got to understand, when we were freed, we had to make our own way. So eventually we still ended up in the chattel slavery, which is called sharecropping, which we still eventually did because we had no other way of making money. So it still was a modern day slavery because they still had control over us. We didn't have control of our own destiny. So we still had to depend on the white man for sustenance. So when you talking about, you know what I'm saying, they had to find something else for us to do. Yes, we had to find, they didn't find nothing for us to do. We found things for us to do. Some of us went to the cities. Some of us went to the cities and got industrial jobs, but even those jobs were for the white man, the white immigrants coming here. They had those jobs for the white man. So we still was left out, you know what I'm saying, of the whole society up until the 1960s. We still had the line share, or what I would say the short end of the stick when it comes to everything. Even after we were enslaved for all them hundreds of years, when we came out of slavery, we still had to make our own way. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to explain to you is, yes, we are the foundation to this country, because without our blood, sweat, and tears to make this a world power. Even in the 1800s, we were a world power. Ain't no other country was better than the United States, because we the ones that made it that way. You understand? Yes, immigrants had a stake in it, but it was us that really laid that foundation early. I'm not talking about later on. I'm talking about early. You know what I'm talking about?
Let me ask you a question, Isaiah. Isaiah, let me ask you a question. Do you think Black Americans outnumber immigrants in America today?
If you talking about every immigrant group, I'm not sure, because there's so many immigrants here. Everybody's coming here.
Right. So in my estimation, immigrants, there's probably the ratio of immigrants to Black Americans is probably 3 to 1. If not 4 to 1. There's probably 4 immigrants for every 1 Black American.
Could be, but that doesn't take away our historical importance.
Let me just say this, and I think even that's true. That has been true. That ratio or that proportion has been true for a very long time, probably since the Civil War.
No, not at all.
That distinction has been true for a very long time.
Not at all.
Let me just say what I'm suggesting, then you can talk again. What I'm suggesting is because today, given that 4 to 1 ratio today, in my estimation, immigrants are more foundational to America today because of that 4 to 1 ratio. Because there are so many more immigrants in America today, immigrants are more foundational to America today than Black Americans are.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. I agree with you. I agree with you.
I know, but let me finish.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you.
Isaiah, don't make me mute you. I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish. Matter of fact, you're lucky. I got a call coming in. Go ahead. Isaiah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Yeah. I had a phone call coming. I kind of forgot what I was saying.
No. You were saying that.
But I was talking about the 4 to 1 ratio, even today. And I think that if you go back 100 years, that ratio is still about 4 to 1. 200 years, like I think, regardless of how far back you go, the ratio of immigrants to Black Americans is still larger. There's still a larger population of immigrants in America to slaves or to descendants of slaves, regardless of which period of America you're talking about. And because of that, immigrants have always been more foundational to America than slaves or their descendants have been. Always. Just simply based on numbers, bro.
Okay, can I talk? I just want to.
Yes.
I want to conject. I want to say, I would say that immigrants today outnumber Black Americans, because you got to think, if you talk about immigrants, you talking about people from Mexico, you talking about people from the Dominican Republic. You talk about people from the islands. You talk about people that came here, from Europe. On the Ellis Island. You talking about all those hundreds of thousands of people, okay, that came here after, this country was built already, even after all that was laid down, because those people came in like early 1900s. Hold on. Let me finish.
Sure.
Those people that came to Ellis Island came in the early 1900s. Okay, the bulk of them, the ones from Europe, the early 1900s, early. Okay, now the ones from Puerto Rico and all those other countries, the Caribbean countries, didn't start rolling in here until, like I say, the middle of 1940, 1950. Okay, we were already heavily ingrained in American culture. What I'm trying to explain to you, okay, my brother, listen, hear me out, okay? Because we've been here so long, because we've been here, we out of any group, we the ones beside the white man that's been here. I'm not even counting the Indians. The Indians is like a non-factor, and the reason why I'm saying they're a non-factor because they had their own separate society. They weren't incorporated into mainstream society. So we're not even talking about them. They on reservations. They in their own world. Okay. So what I'm talking about is people like, like us, like, freedmen, white people, other ethnic groups that came here, okay, after the 1900s, okay? We were already here since 1600s. We were already laying down our culture for at least 200-300 years before 1900, okay? So what I'm saying to you is the people that came from Ellis Island, the Europeans that came here from Ireland and all Scotland, all them other places, they came here, right? They came here. And when they came here, they dispersed all throughout the United States. A lot of them came, to the cities, the big cities, like the industrial cities, like up in New York, Connecticut, Boston, all the places, right? That's why they have such a big Irish community. That's why New York City and the Bronx especially was heavily Jewish, heavily Irish, heavily all that, because they came here from Ellis Island, Ellis Island, and came the right way and got their citizenship. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to explain to you is, yes, they started getting a population in the early 1900s. Okay, into the early 20th century, 20th century. Okay, they started getting a population, but we were already here, making a foundation for ourselves and to the American fabric. Okay, we were already here. So as time went on, and we kept on, making culture here. We kept on making our own culture because of our experiences here. Okay. Other factions, other groups that came here, they had to pretty much, especially if you're Caribbean. If you're Caribbean and you're black, okay, you're not gonna have such a camaraderie with the white man. Okay, I don't think so, because you're black, and the white man gonna make sure you know that you're black, even though you're from the Caribbean. So if you're coming here into this country, and you're coming into the American society, you're gonna come in to the people who closely looks like you, which is us. That's what I'm saying. We never had no beef. Black Americans and West Indians never had no beef. We're brothers. But because of society, white men, how they try to pit us against one another. Okay, they try to, tell this group, oh no, you're better than that group. Oh no, they to try to keep us down. So all that's been going on and brewing for decades, my brother, decades. Okay, we are our own worst. You know that old saying, we are our own worst enemy, and that's the truth, because the diaspora of, the blacks and Latinos, we are pitted against one another for resources, for political power, for culture, for this, for that. They pit us against one another, which is what you're doing now. Because when I see you, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Hear me out. When I hear you and you're talking so much badness about Tariq, I'm like, well, why are you talking so much badness about him when he's trying to uplift his people? For years, decades. Hold on. For decades, people want to say.
Isaiah. No, hold on, Isaiah. Trying to uplift his people by calling me a tether. Like, don't act as if Tyreek. Hold on.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Listen, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
As long as you know that the venom, the quote unquote venom that you're getting from Caribbean people isn't just in a vacuum. Like, y'all ain't doing nothing. Like, if you think, Isaiah, that claiming that Black Americans are foundational and nobody else is, if you think that's not insulting and a shot, you're kidding, or you're fooling yourself.
Let me ask you a question. Are you Jamaican? Are you Jamaican? You Jamaican, right? Yeah. You Jamaican?
My parents are Jamaicans, yes.
Okay, so say this is right. If I go to your island right now, if Black Americans by the thousands go to your country right now, your island, right? Just hear me out.
Yeah.
If thousands of African Americans, Black Americans that really are not Jamaican, okay, and we go to your island and we say, listen.
But I really am an American. See, you got to fix up your analogy, Isaiah, because when I'm not just here as an illegal, I'm an American citizen. So you have to fix your analogy. You have to say, if a bunch of y'all go to Jamaica and become citizens, do y'all have a right to say how the American government, whether or not the Jamaican government? Let me finish, Isaiah. If you become a Jamaican citizen and move to Jamaica, you will have all the rights of a Jamaican citizen.
But could I say that Black Americans? Could I say that I'm foundational to Jamaica? Could I say I'm foundational to Jamaica as a Black American? As a Black American,
they would look at you as if you're ridiculous. But they would call you a Jamaican. They wouldn't say you're not Jamaican. No Jamaican says they're foundational to Jamaica. If you go to Jamaica and say you're foundational, they would look at you like you're ridiculous. Because for one, they don't even say they're foundational, and they wouldn't. You will not find a Jamaican talking about, oh, I'm a foundational Jamaican, because the idea is just silly.
Why?
So if you go there,
wasn't the Jamaican slaves foundational to building of that country, of the island? Yes. I'm asking you. Think about it. Think about it.
Yes.
Okay, so wasn't y'all foundational to the upbuilding of that island?
Yes. But we're not going to call ourselves foundational Jamaicans. The idea is silly.
Foundational.
So your mic is breaking up, Isaiah. You're breaking up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you now, but you're going in and out.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me get closer. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're clear now.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say, listen. See, people are getting so caught up with this foundational thing, man. We just Black Americans, dog. Okay, we just Black Americans. Stop getting caught up with that foundation. Stop getting caught up with foundational. That's just something added because we want to.
Foundational is the insulting part.
But it's not. It shouldn't be.
That's the piece that's all added. Hold on, but Isaiah, you cannot add. We've always been Black Americans. Jamaicans were even considered Black Americans. Puerto Ricans were considered Black Americans at one point. Everybody was a Black American. Now you guys added in the foundational part.
Because we're trying to delineate, my brother. You heard what I said? We have to delineate. In order for us to delineate, we have to separate ourselves as a separate ethnic group. Okay? In order for us to do that, we have to add the foundational Black American to it so we can delineate ourselves and we can have some type of being to show that we are of a certain lineage, okay? So we can get what we need to get as a people, so we can organize as a people, so we can get what we need from the American. This, brother, I'm telling you, this has nothing to do with Caribbeans, brother. This is our business. This is unfinished business with the white man. It has nothing to do with y'all at all. If you think about it, it really has nothing to do with Puerto Ricans. It has nothing to do with Jamaicans. It has nothing to do with Haitians. It has nothing to do with, it's unfinished business between Black Americans and the American government. Nothing to do with y'all. Do you understand that much? Do you understand that?
I understand what you're
Okay, so that's all it is. That's all it is.
Isaiah, even on Tariq's website, Tariq on his website say Caribbean immigrants are working for white supremacy. So how does it have nothing to do with us?
That's hold on. I'm not saying you. I'm not
agents of white. He says Tariq Nasheed says the government specifically brought in Black immigrants from the Caribbean to downplay the FBA movement that was going on here.
Okay.
So how does it have nothing to do with us? Your whole movement,
it really doesn't. It really doesn't.
The whole FBA movement is an anti-immigrant movement.
No, it's not. It's an anti-American. It's an anti.
It's an anti. But who? Why is it an anti-government movement? But but the word tether doesn't apply to government people. It applies to immigrants.
It applies to anybody who goes against what we are trying to do. It's the white man that's a tether.
No, it goes against immigrants. A tether is an immigrant. The tether term doesn't apply to white people.
Tether is anybody who's going against us, man. Anybody who's going against what we're trying to do. No, it has nothing to do with immigrants.
White people, white supremacists, white Americans that you consider white supremacists. A white American that you consider a white supremacist. Are they tethers?
They are not tethers.
Okay, so not everybody is a tether. Stop saying that.
Okay.
Not everybody
Hold on.
Is a tether.
Because they are the ones we're trying to get what we need to get from. They're the ones that that's why this has nothing to do with y'all. But
they go against you.
You know, okay,
do they go against you?
Who?
White people that are
the
white.
That's who the problem is. That's who the problem is. That's who the problem is.
Are they tethers?
They are the American government, my brother. That's who we have beef with. We don't have beef with. We have no beef. Listen, my brother. Listen to me. Listen, we don't have beef with no Caribbean. We have
your beef. No, you listen for a second. Your beef is with white supremacists and the American government, but you don't have a special name for them. You don't have a derogatory name for them. All you call them a white supremacist. You call them supremacist. That's not a derogatory term. That's a term bigging them up. They're supremacists. They're supreme. Immigrants who have nothing to do with it, you have a special name for. They're tethers, a derogatory term. So how does it have nothing to do with them, but you have a derogatory term just for them?
Hey, my brother, listen to me. Listen to me for change, okay? Instead of going against what Tariq is saying or going against or disagreeing with Tariq, stop and just think. If I do this, am I helping what he's trying to do? Am I helping the Black American cause? Because see, when you do that, you're putting yourself in a tether category because you're going against what we are trying to accomplish in this fight. In this fight, we are trying to accomplish something. Hold on. Listen, I'm from the Bronx, dog. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx, man. Jamaicans stick together. Puerto Ricans stick together. Haitians stick together. This is the only time I've seen in a long time the Black Americans are sticking together and staying on code. Do you know how important that is for us as a people? When your people always stick together, y'all always stick together. Y'all don't always listen. I've been around Jamaicans all my life, and guess what? They are so giving to each other. They are loving to each other. They show camaraderie. We don't do that. So now that we are trying to do that, why is that a problem?
Isaiah,
did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. Like you're making stuff up. Jamaicans don't always stick together like that.
Oh my God.
Puerto Ricans don't always stick together like that. They don't. Cut it out. Like stop trying to make stuff up. Like
so that's made up. So y'all don't stick together. When they come to this country, they stick together. Jamaicans mainly stick together. Puerto Ricans and Asians and all them, that community as a whole usually stick together. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about as a whole. I'm talking about as a whole.
Not any more than Black Americans do. Black Americans have
bullshit.
the Black Power movement. Y'all got Pan-Africanism. Y'all got the whole civil rights movement. Now
that's right. FBA. That's the only time. After that, we lost that. After that, we lost that, my brother. After that, we lost that, my brother. After that, we lost that, my brother.
One example. Give me
After that, we lost that, my brother.
Y'all have been Black Power.
Yes.
Back
in those times. Way a long time ago. A long time ago.
Where is the Jamaican group getting together in America that you're talking about? Where's the foundation?
I'm talking about as a people, man. I'm talking about as a people, man. As a community. I'm talking about as a community.
You're making.
I'm talking about as a community. As a community. As a community.
You are making that up to excuse.
I'm making that up. Okay, I'm making that up. So we don't need. We don't need to talk no more.
To excuse the fact that you're being divisive.
Right? Oh, we being divisive?
Yes, of course you are. When you're the ones calling Caribbean people tethers, you don't think that's divisive, bro? Like tethers? You're excusing everything y'all do that's divisive, and then saying, "Oh, it's your fault." You think calling like we didn't start calling y'all tethers. We didn't have a special name for y'all.
Yes, Yankees. You call us Yankee boy. You call us Yankee boy. Yankee boy. You call us Yankee boy. That's not being divisive.
Older than whatever.
But isn't that divisive? Isn't that divisive?
No,
I'm actually questioning. No. Why isn't that divisive? It's derogatory. No. It's not positive. No. It's not positive. Yankee boy is not positive. It's to be looked at as derogatory.
What does it mean? What does Yankee mean?
Yankee boy means a black man or Black American from the States.
No, it don't. It just means you're.
So what does it mean?
It means you're American.
A Black American. A Black American. No, it has to do with Black Americans. It has nothing to do with white Americans. Black Americans. Yankee boy is Black Americans. Stop
playing. So it means Black American. A tether doesn't mean.
Y'all been calling us that for centuries, dog. Y'all been calling us that for decades. We just started this tether thing. Y'all been calling us Yankee boy for decades. For decades.
Yankee means black.
A black American. That's a derogatory name.
That's the difference. We don't call ourselves tethers. You call yourself what we call you. We call you a Yankee, which means Black American. You call yourself a Black American.
Is that supposed to be positive? But is that supposed to be? But I'm saying, is that supposed to be positive though? A Yankee boy, was that meant to be positive? Or was that meant to be derogatory?
It's not meant to be derogatory. It's not meant to be either. It's just meant to be, yo, you're an American. It's not meant to be a derogatory term.
Oh, come on, man. Stop, man.
You're an American.
Yo, now you're making excuses now. Now you're making excuses, my brother. Come on, man. Come on. We just started that. Because we're trying to delineate, man. That's all. We're trying to delineate. That's all. I mean, what's so hard? People always try to delineate themselves from us. They try to separate themselves from us.
Isaiah, Yankee is a delineating term. Because all it means is you're a Black American. We're delineating.
Okay, so y'all been delineating from us for years. That means y'all been delineating from us for years. Y'all been separating yourselves from us for years.
When you say tether, just know you're muted right now. When you say tether, that's not just delineating. You're calling us leeches. That's not just delineating. When we say Yankee, it means you're a Black American, and we're delineating. When you call us a tether, you're not just calling us Jamaicans or Caribbean. You're calling us Jamaican and Caribbean leeches. That's derogatory. You must see the difference. And if you don't, you're really trolling.
Tether is? Do you know what a tether is?
A leech.
No, that's not what it is, my brother. You're making stuff up. A tether is listen to me. Because you have to listen. Okay, because you're not understanding, and that's why you were making a podcast on stuff you don't know. Listen, a tether is just somebody who is going against what we are trying to do. It's nothing more or nothing less than trying to go against what Black Americans, FBA, is trying to accomplish. You're going against what we are trying to accomplish. That's all. It just means y'all are going against us. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with leeches. It has nothing to do with nothing you're talking about.
That's what it means.
Oh my God. Oh my God, man.
If all it means was that you're going against us, then white supremacists would be tethers. And you already said
white supremacists are white supremacists. We have a name for them. White supremacists.
Go against you.
White supremacists are white supremacists. That's their name.
Are they?
Huh?
Do they go against you? Do they go against you?
Yes, that's why we call them white supremacists. White supremacy.
Are they
They're white supremacists. No, we have a different name for y'all because y'all supposed to be with us. That's why we call you a tether, because you're supposed to be with us and you're not acting like you with us because you're going against us. That's why we calling you a tether, because you're supposed to be our brother. We're supposed to be together, and you're going against what we're trying to do. That's why we're calling you a tether, or Caribbeans tethers, because we're supposed to be in the same family. And we're not acting like it because you're doing things against us. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? That's all we're saying. We call the white supremacist because that's all he's been to us, and that's the government. That's the powers that be. So we are going up against the white supremacists to get what we want. We have to go to the white man to get what we want because they're the ones that enslaved us for over 200-300 years. We trying to get what we need to get from him. But y'all are supposed to be our brother. Y'all supposed to be our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, and you're acting like you're not. So guess what? We'll call you tethers because y'all not for us. So that's to separate ourselves from you.
How are we not for you? How are we not for you?
Because look what you're doing. You make a podcast saying stuff like, FBA this, FBA. Why are you going against your brother? Are we brothers? Are we supposed to be brothers? So why are you making a podcast against us when we supposed to be brothers, my brother? We supposed to. I have nothing against Caribbeans. Yo, we supposed to be together.
Because I think
no, man. That's not. Why you think Tariq is calling you a tether? Because you're going against us, man. You have people that's hating against us. You have people that's hating. You have people hating against us. And they should feel happy for us that we're getting together now and we're trying to do something for ourselves as a community. You should be happy about that. You shouldn't be.
What are you doing as a community that immigrants are trying to have you not do?
We are trying to get what we've been asking for hundreds of years, man. We want restitution for our. We want reparations, okay? We want reparations. Not only that, hold on. Not only that. That's not all. We want to be called FBA now. We don't want to be called African American. We don't want to be called Black American. We want to be called FBA. That's the name that we deserve, not the name they want us to have. Because all the other names, we didn't pick those names. We want a name that we want, that we desire, that we like, and we like that name. Now, a lot of people have a problem with that because it's not what the white man designates us. Okay, the white man always designates.
Do any Black Americans have a problem with that name?
I'm not going to say all of them.
I'm not going to say Americans agree that y'all should now be called foundational Black Americans, or are there Black Americans out there who are just against the idea of FBA as I am?
Okay, well, hold on. Well, first of all, hold on. FBA, first of all, what we call ourselves as a people, nobody should have nothing to say or have anything or discrepancy about. Because guess what? That's the name we want to call ourselves.
That don't consider themselves that. What about the Black Americans that don't consider themselves that? Can they say, yo, that's not me? And do you think that's not them? Like, what do you say to Black Americans who just say, look, I'm just an African American. I don't think we're foundational. That is ridiculous. Y'all doing a little too much. It's insulting. Like, what do you say to Black Americans who feel that way? Do you consider them to be tethers as well?
Well, hold on. No, they're not tethers. They still FBA.
What are they?
They still FBA. Okay, hold on. Listen, you got to understand the definition of FBA. You, in order to be looked at as FBA, okay, you have to have a lineage that traces back to the freedmen of the United States.
That's the definition of Black American. That was the definition of African American all along. It's always been like that's not new. So what is this new thing? It's not new. So
that's what we want to call ourselves. What's the problem? That's what we want to call ourselves. What's the problem?
I'm an African American. If I'm an African American, I already think that I have lineage here, and that I have slave lineage in America. Calling myself foundational.
Hold on. Where's your family from? Where's your family from? Where's your family from?
I just told you, I'm Jamaican.
Okay, so then you don't have lineage to this country. Your lineage goes in Jamaica. It's the Jamaican Islands. That's where your lineage comes from, my brother. Why people have
Americans?
See, that's why we got to delineate, because everybody could be called African American.
American was already delineating. Black people who call themselves Black Americans already knew they were talking about their slave ancestry. Calling yourself foundational doesn't now foundational Black American. You're acting as if when Black Americans call themselves Black Americans, they didn't mean, oh, I'm an American and I have slave ancestry. That's what it's always meant. That's what
everybody has slave. Everybody has slave ancestry. Jamaicans have slave ancestry in Jamaica. Puerto Ricans have slave ancestry in Puerto Rico. Dominicans have
slave ancestry in America.
Okay, then. So what's there not to understand? What's so hard to understand about that?
What we don't understand is this foundational thing. What does that mean?
Damn, my brother. Foundational, man. Foundational means that, listen, you want to know what foundational means? You have to really go back to your history, man, to understand what we're talking about.
What foundational means to me is that I'm a tether. I'm a leech. That's what it means.
No, man, you're not that. You look at yourself as that? I'm asking, you look at yourself. You look at yourself like that.
No, that's how you. Okay,
then. So why do you have? Why are you putting yourself in that category? If you're not a tether, don't even worry about that. It don't apply to you. It don't apply to you. It applies to people who's supposed to be our brothers.
Why are you insulted by my video? If it don't apply to you, it don't apply to you.
Because I'm FBA. And I don't like, how you are categorized and looking at us as FBA. Now you're trying to say, okay, another thing, you trying to say that hip hop is Jamaican? Come on, dog. You trying to say hip hop is Jamaican? Jamaicans created hip hop? I'm asking a question.
What I said was Kool Herc.
Kool Herc. Okay, let me explain to you about Kool Herc, okay?
Africa Bambaataa was a Jamaican, right? So
he wasn't Jamaican. He was from people from.
Let me say this: the two main people. When we talk about the history and creation of hip hop, if there are two names that's going to be mentioned more than anyone else's, it's Kool Herc and Africa Bambaataa. That's a fact, and both of them happen to be Jamaican. When we talk about
guess what?
When we talk about the greatest of all times in terms of hip hop, who must be in that conversation is Biggie Smalls. I may not even agree that he's the GOAT, but he's definitely in the conversation, and he's a Jamaican. And when we talk about the teacher, KRS-One is also a Jamaican, also has Jamaican background. So y'all cannot, the greatest influences in hip hop are Jamaican influences.
That's incidental, brother. That's incidental.
Incidental, my ass.
Incidental. You know why? All the people, all the pioneers have said that is incidental to the creation of hip hop, that Kool Herc is looked at as the father. Okay, because when Kool Herc first came to this country, he did not know anything about Black culture. When he came to the Bronx, it was Black American, Puerto Ricans, and he had to learn the culture of America. And the culture of the Bronx at that time was Black American culture that was being exuded on the streets. Yes, you had Puerto Ricans. Yes, you had other groups there. But guess what? They were following our traditions, the way we talk, Ebonics.
No, they weren't.
I mean, street talk. The street talk they were talking was Ebonics. They were following our music. They were following our music, Black American music. Okay, without Black American music, hip hop does not even come nowhere near. Because guess what? They weren't playing calypso. They weren't playing reggae in early hip hop, my brother. They were playing funk, soul, R&B, and disco, and that's all Black American art forms. Okay, they were following Black American culture. At that time, the civil rights movement just ended. Black power movement was going full force. You had riots in the streets of the country. You had Black culture being exuded all through the country. Not Jamaican culture, not Puerto Rican culture, Black American culture because of the times. Okay, you always got to look at what was going on at the time. Okay, and what was going on at the time was Jackson 5. You look on the TV, you got Soul Train. You look at all this. Everybody who was influenced by hip hop in the early goings always talk about Soul Train. They talk about looking at how they were dancing, how those brothers were dancing. They used those moves and put them in the street. Then you had the disco scene. Black Americans create disco. All the brothers out of Philly, all the brothers out of Ohio, all the brothers, I'm talking about all the brothers from these different countries across the different cities across the country were doing stuff that created hip hop. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You always gotta look at, just like if we go to your country, we go to your island right now, right? And we go into your island and we are trying to get acclimated to the culture of that island. You think it's gonna be Black American culture that's gonna be exuded there? Or do you think it's gonna be Jamaican culture? Because it's Jamaica. Okay, we're not gonna be trying to say that we created no calypso or no damn reggae, because that's not our culture. And we know that. Black Americans, FBA, we know that. We're not trying to take that, but guess what?
All right. So if you move to Jamaica and stay there, you're going to be adding to the culture. You're not just going to adopt Jamaican culture. You're going to add to it as well. Like it's as if people don't understand how culture works. What was going on in the Bronx? Everybody, the Caribbean people that were in the Bronx at that time in the early 70s, the Caribbean people, the Jamaicans, the Puerto Ricans, some white people, the
No. Stop saying white. Stop saying white. Stop saying white. Stop saying white.
Bro, if you're gonna say disco, you have to say white people.
No.
Disco
white
culture. Let me tell you.
Oh my God.
Disco music may have started with black people, but disco culture is more white people culture than anything else.
No, my brother, you misinformed. You misinformed.
People make disco music a genre. White people did.
You misinformed, my brother. You misinformed.
You see that? But let me say this: the way culture works, somebody doesn't. Jamaicans don't just move to the Bronx and then just start acting like Black Americans do. That's not how culture works. Culture, everybody is adding to the. Let me finish, Isaiah.
As a youth.
Isaiah, let me finish. Everybody adds to the culture and everybody is feeding off of each other. There's no such thing. This idea in your head of, oh, they just came in and started doing black people stuff. That's ridiculous. Black people in the Bronx were copying Puerto Ricans and how Puerto Ricans.
No, we weren't. We were not copying Puerto Ricans. We were not copying Puerto Ricans, brother.
Jamaicans
no, we was not.
Everybody was feeding off of everybody.
It was during hip hop, during the opening stages of hip hop. During the opening stages of hip hop, there was no Black Americans.
Isaiah, you're muted right now because you got to let me finish. That's just how culture works. Culture doesn't work. It's not a one-way thing where just one side is. It's just my culture, and you come in and you're just doing what I've invented. That's ridiculous. That's a silly idea of how culture works. Culture is a back and forth thing. It feeds off of people. People create a culture while people build a culture. They live a culture. It's not even creating a culture, it's living it. Right? And everybody contributes to that. So to say hip hop is a black culture is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Can I talk?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, listen. I'm not saying that y'all didn't contribute, my brother. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is, at that time in history, okay, at that time, I'm not saying eventually Black Americans didn't adopt Jamaican culture as hip hop waned on. And I'm talking about way after hip hop was looked at as a genre. Okay, I'm talking about in the 80s. That's when we started rocking. Black Americans started rocking, say dreads and wearing, kufis and all that type of stuff. That's later on. But I'm talking about early formational years of hip hop. That's what I'm talking about, because this is the debate. The debate is the early formation of hip hop. Okay, when it was a black thing, A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people are looking at 76, 77, 78. I'm talking about early hip hop when it was just Kool Herc and his crew. All right? Kool Herc and his crew. Kool Herc was the only Jamaican in that crew. All the rest of his people, Folklore Rock, all the rest of them were Black American. He adopted Black American culture, my brother. Okay? He even said that to himself. He adopted Black American hip culture to get into hip hop because hip hop was already going on when he started DJing. When he started DJing, hip hop was already a thing. Okay? He didn't have a name yet. Okay? As time went on, okay, I would say like around late 70s, early 80s, a lot more Black Americans started interchanging.
I'm going to be going for about another 5 minutes or so, Isaiah.
Okay. So as time went on, we started adopting, Jamaican culture and Puerto Rican culture within hip hop. But in the early goings on, it was mainly a Black American thing early. Okay. The music, okay, the style, the language, everything was Black Americanized, okay? As time went on, people started, incorporating their cultural, exchanges within hip hop. But that's later. That's not the opening years of hip hop. And see, that's what people don't understand. People want to say what went on later. Yes, that's later, but that's not early formational years. Okay,
hey, Isaiah,
that's the debate.
Here's my question to you, Isaiah. Have you noticed that we stopped talking about foundational Black Americans in terms of slavery, right? We stopped talking about whether Black people built America, and then we went to whether or not Black Americans built hip hop. And if you notice, it's kind of like the same arguments being made where Black Americans are like, no, it's Black Americans that created America and everybody else came in later and added stuff later. And with hip hop, your argument is the exact same thing. It's Black Americans that created hip hop and everybody else came in later and just added stuff later. Like, it's so interesting to me just how similar those two arguments are. When Black people want to claim something, they claim it in the exact same way and they make the exact same arguments about them. But Black Americans love to claim stuff. That's even why I put up this video about FBA leader claiming Blacks are foundational to everywhere, because Black people be claiming everything. And what's also interesting, Tariq Nasheed, the name Tariq, I think that's a Arabic name, right? Black Americans throughout the Black Power movement, the Pan-African movement, Black Americans, whenever a lot of Black Americans have taken on African names, dress like Africans. They've adapted African ways of dress. When we go to Juneteenth celebrations, it's mostly African stuff that's happening, right?
Yeah.
So Black Americans will adapt other people's stuff when it's convenient to them, but when it's not convenient, they start talking about how people are just copying everything they do. We're not just copying from you, dog. You copy from us as well. You copy whenever it's convenient to you.
African garb is for us too, because we're African too. So why would that be something that we acculturated when that's our culture as well? I mean, we can't be African.
Just so you understand that copying is a human thing, right? So stop acting as if you created everything and like the same way when you adapted that African thing, I'm sure you would think that you put your own twist to it. You know what I'm saying? But you won't give anybody any credit for that. You think whenever people take from you, they take everything. You don't think they add anything to it.
Listen, we never said nobody else contributed. No, we never said that. We never said nobody else contributed. Did you hear what I just said? I said later on.
Creators too, like that's the insulting part. You think you're the only ones creating. You think Black Americans are the only ones that are creative geniuses, and everybody else are like the Chinese.
Hold on, didn't y'all create reggae? Didn't y'all create reggae? Didn't y'all create reggae and Sky?
And then y'all tell us that it's just off of Black. Then as soon as we say that, if I say that, the first thing you're gonna say is, "Oh, y'all just stole." That's just R&B.
No, but hold on. That's your culture, right? That's your culture. So how could we steal that from your or say anything about that? That's your culture. So we're not gonna try to grab that from y'all. Just like salsa and all that type of stuff is Puerto Rican culture. We don't want that because we know that's their culture. But hip hop is Black American culture.
Do African Americans borrow from other cultures?
Do we borrow from other cultures?
Yes.
Yes, because we like
taking you too long to answer. That's the question, Isaiah. That's the
yes, I'm trying to answer it. Yes, because we like Jamaican food. Yes, we like Jamaican dancing, the reggae dance. We like doing that stuff too. But guess what? We understand and respect where it comes from. We don't disrespect that for the most part. Most Black Americans know that that's Jamaican culture. We know that salsa is Puerto Rican culture. We don't try to take that from y'all because we know that that's your culture. So why can't when we say that hip hop is ours, that it derives from us? Why is that a problem when it does derive from us? But it's like we can't have nothing. All the other genres like all like funk, soul, that's ours. But guess what? Rock and roll was even stole from us. We created that. They stole that from us. They stole a lot of stuff from us.
You think y'all created?
We did. We did create rock and roll. Come on, my brother. We did. No, because we did create those genres. We did. That's facts. That's facts. That's not fairy tale. That's facts. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem?
I mean,
I'll ask you a question. Why is that a problem? Is that a problem that we create those genres? Is there jealousy with that? I mean, we did do that.
I mean, it's about the same amount of jealousy as y'all have with Puerto Ricans claiming to have to create hip hop.
No, it's not jealousy. It's just we don't. It's not facts. It's just not facts. It's not
according
facts.
To you, but according to them, it is facts. And I don't think you have any facts.
Most Puerto Ricans know hip hop come from Black Americans. If you ask most Puerto Ricans, they're gonna tell you it come from Black Americans. It's just a couple of few outliers that's trying to say that. But for most part, most Puerto Ricans in the Bronx, if you ask any Puerto Rican, for the most part, they're gonna be like, yes, hip hop is Black American culture that come from the Black brothers.
Will most white people say Black people created rock and roll?
Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Yes, they would.
Most Black people won't say that. Most Black people won't say that. You're an outlier on that.
No. Most Black people know that we created rock and roll. They stole that from us. They stole country from us. You know what I'm saying? They stole a lot of different things from us. That's why we have a problem. That's why. Because so many people, so many different cultures stole from us. And we just getting tired of it. You know what I'm saying? We getting tired of not being recognized for our accomplishments in this country and what we have created in this country. And we just tired of it. That's the problem. And see, y'all don't understand because y'all just coming here. Y'all just coming here and y'all don't understand the history. Y'all don't understand the history. Do you understand?
I mean, just know that. Yeah, I understand perfectly what you're saying. It doesn't convince me to stop making the videos I'm making.
No, you're gonna make the videos on
Tethers, as long as y'all are calling us tethers and saying we're just here trying to get your reparations, I'm gonna make these videos because I think that's ridiculous. I think those statements are ridiculous. We Caribbean people don't want your reparations. We didn't come here for reparations. We came here looking for the American dream, and the American dream has nothing to do with your reparations. So if you think let me finish. So if you think being a tether, if you think trying to prevent you or trying to get your reparations is what makes us tethers, you're mistaken. Because Caribbean people don't want your reparations, bro.
For anything.
We want to work. We don't want reparations. That's not what we're here for.
So we don't want. So now we don't want to work. And see, that's another problem. A lot of people come here and think that Black Americans are lazy. See, that's another thing. That's another, discriminatory or a stereotype that Caribbeans have for us, and that's because the white man put that in your head that we lazy. You see, that's
all I said was we came here to work. That's a fact. If you ask any Caribbean people why they come here, is to work, and it's not to come here and get reparations. So, and I'm not saying that that's all. That may be what you already said. FBA, your main objective is reparations, and we also agree that not every Black American. And we also agree that's one of them. And I'm sure the other one is That's one of them, and the other one of them is going to be some other free stuff that y'all want. So
free
it's always
stuff.
something. Yeah, it's always something. You always. It's always something like that.
See, that's the problem.
It's always going to be something like that. Why is
free stuff?
Reparations is free stuff, ain't it?
No, it's not free stuff. That's hundreds of years of reparations that Jewish people got. Jewish people got their reparations. Jewish people got their reparations.
How old are you,
Jewish
Isaiah? 40?
I'm 50, brother.
40?
I'm 50, my brother. I'm 50.
You're 50. So what you talking about 100 years ago, and you ain't experienced nothing from no 100 years ago?
My ancestors did. My ancestors did, my brother. And my father and my grandparents experienced that. My grandparents experienced that. My father was in the civil rights movement. My father fought in the civil rights movement, my brother. So yes, that's do us, okay, for all the years of subjugation and racism that we experienced in this country. So you wouldn't understand that because your family's coming from a different environment.
You didn't experience it, Isaiah. You didn't
experience it.
You want reparations for something that someone else experienced. And that's the problem I'm having with your claim. So listen, Isaiah, that's like a whole nother discussion. I'm really grateful and thankful that you came on. You know, this conversation could have been a lot more hostile, and it wasn't. And you know, you're a gentleman. You cut me off a lot, but other than that, you're a gentleman, and I appreciate that you came up and actually made a show out of this. So, but I really got to go. It's been 3 hours since I've been live.
I didn't know he was on that long.
No, we haven't been on that long, but I've been live that long. We haven't been talking for that long. But I am gonna shut this down. I hope you're subscribed and hit them notifications and holler at me whenever I'm live, because you know what I mean. I like building with you.
Yeah, no doubt.
But you know what I mean. Don't count me out because I'm a tether. Still come in and build.
No, my brother. You my brother, man. You my brother, man.
All right, respect, bro.
Respect, my brother.
Love. Thanks for coming in.
One love. Later.
One.
I'm a war president. I make decisions here in the Oval Office, in foreign policy matters with war on my mind.
We have a rocket launcher. They have a rocket. We have a rocket. We have a rocket, the rocket launcher. We are at war. We are with ourselves. With ourselves. We are at war. We are with ourselves. With ourselves. We're gonna bomb them. What children and women? What? A lot of collateral damage in a moment is coming. They had it coming. What? Well, I've been summing it up, and I've been counting all the ways that I hate your guts. I'm number one in charge of big bombing. Boys, I've been bombing. Storming Norman's armies coming to Saddam 'em. Gomorrah and Saddam 'em. Show 'em who's royal. Boy, will we take oil from 'em? Yup, we're gonna dumb 'em. Shoot your sons and televise the revolution so you know who is the one that's bombing you. Bomb 'em. Release Martin Lockheed on 'em. What beautiful ballistics. Try not to bleed on 'em. Yup, we're gonna run 'em. Nagasaki son 'em. Atomically bomb 'em. And take Saki from 'em. Yup, we're gonna done 'em. When in Rome, it's so common like rumors of war. I told you. We are at war. We are with ourselves. With ourselves. We are at war. We are with ourselves. With ourselves. With ourselves. We are at war. We are with ourselves. With ourselves. We are at war. We are with ourselves. With ourselves. We're gonna bomb them. Radical Islam 'em. Amass that ass. You can feel us coming. We're suicidal bombing. Pardon. Is that a rocket in your pocket, or you just happy to see us bombing? We're bombing shit to shift the ownership from Egypt to the Gaza Strip. We're straight bombing. Bombing like Israelis 7 days a week, cause rarely do we keep Sabbath day holy enough to not bombing. World War III on them. War games, push pawns on them to die, while the nights checkmate on them. Kingdom coming to an end. I'm drumming love battle songs of how bad I wanna crush and bomb them. Embalm them. Then again, bomb them again. And for the live commentary, tune to CNN. For the dead coverage of me bombing them. A star-spangled harming them to peace. We'll have peace after I'm done bombing. Them have a rocket. Hey, we have a rocket. What? We are gonna rocket. The rocket launcher. Them have a rocket. Hey, we have a rocket. Whoa. We are gonna rocket. The rocket launcher. Them have a rocket. Hey, we have a rocket. What? We are gonna rocket. rocket launchers. Them have a rocket, we have a rocket. Hey, we are go rocket, the rocket launchers. We are at war, we are at war with ourselves, with ourselves. We are at war, we are at war with ourselves, with ourselves. We are at war, we are at war with ourselves, with ourselves. We are at war, we are at war with ourselves. We are at war, and I got the scar to show. Hey, look, y'all, it's psychological like apocalypse, y'all. It's the rise and the fall of man. It was orchestrated by his own hand, and damn, time to build up Noah's Ark again to withstand the fire next time we burn the land. And my rocket launcher goes bang, and just a few years ago you was my man. And we shot Russians together. Now discussions are just like whatever, yeah, whatever. Cause we could declare war is over, but still keep bringing home more dead soldiers. When peace is wartime, ceases our kind to live on this planet. Just one hot granite in space, with intimations of a human race at war with itself that costed itself when...
I'm a war president. I make decisions here in the